Oh, yeah. Today is February the 10th of 2022, and hopefully, we don't have a lot of hot miking and background noise. The dogs are going crazy because the neighbors are making noise. Hopefully, they don't fuck up the show by making too much hot mic noise. But today is Thursday, and it's time for the festivities. Share the show, hit the like, and give me money. Let's do it. Boom.
Are you ready? Call your mama, call your papa, call your friends. The festivities are about to begin. Boom.
Damn it, I was talking, I was muted. I just shared the show a bunch of Discord servers. There are a few servers that I am not subscribed to. That's Gem Panda Discord server. I am not in it. I am not in Geo server. I am not in 24/7 server. I am not in many other Discord servers. So if you think you can go and share the show over there, throw a link, maybe in Twitter, Facebook, something, whatever you think. Uh, we are very close to 1,000 subscribers. We are sitting down at 927 today. That is fantastic, and I want to thank every support for being here, because if you are here, that means that you are subscribed and you supported this channel by doing so. And I want to thank you very much. I'll drink to that. Cheers, boom. At least I didn't go like a whole 2 minutes talking without nobody hearing me. I gotta come up with a new intro. Maybe not a new intro, but the ladies and gentlemen, we are live. All the good shenanigans that I used to do in the other channel. I haven't done any of that in this channel. It's always like very, very free and open, like we're just talking to each other. Like I'm just talking to you, pretty much. Thank you for being here, guys. I appreciate it, man. Like the video, share the show, and support. There's a PayPal link pinned above. I need your help, guys, big time. I am in a situation that I don't want to think too much, but any a little bit helps, man. I'll tell you guys soon. It's all good. I haven't seen my parents. They're here visiting, but I haven't seen them in a few days. They caught the coof, and my sister is all like, "Oh my god!" And I haven't gone and see them for a few days, but I'm planning on going. I don't know if later today or tomorrow. They have to spend a few days in here with me before they go back to Puerto Rico. Thank you for being here. Shout out to see you guys. Earth is Life, Patio Furniture, Sean Hawkins, Citizen 9, Farmer's Boy, Bobby Alaskan Explorer, Jean's Mind, Citizen 9, RT96, Martin Cuso on Patio Furniture. The Freak Show, yeah, that's a great song, and I still like that song. But every time I played it, I get a copyright claim, you know? So I could play the song, right? And I could go back, like if I want any ads or whatever revenue, like I don't know, if I want 2 pennies, if I want to earn like 2 cents, 2 or 3 cents of that video that day, I need to then delete the freak show. I can play it and have fun, but then I'm gonna lose those 3 pennies. And also we will lose the live chat replay in the videos. So I had to choose, should I play the freak show because it's fun, it's entertaining, it gives us the mood to keep going, but then we will lose the replay chat box. It's not much of the 3 cents. It's actually like 2 or 3 cents. It's not much. With the I don't get 1,000 views. I don't even gonna have 1 cent probably the video. So I don't care if I could play it for fun. But then when I have to go back and edit the video, or either leave the video and I get a copyright claim. That copyright claim is like, I don't know. They got an eye on me. Or if I delete it, then we'll lose the replay on the chat box. Who got 2 shout outs? You win. Probably yeah. Biggest Douglas didn't get a shout out. I'm gonna draw something. It's gonna be an easy one today, an easy drawing. I got a fun one to make. So. But we are joined by Crowexy. How you doing, sir?
Hey, hello, sir. How are you, Jose?
Well, that was very correctly.
How about now?
That's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, glad to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Thank you for coming early, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I see you jumping in the chat box. You shared a video, something. Was it a specific point that you wanted to bring? Some stuff that you've been sharing or commenting in the Daily Boom.
Yes, and actually, that reminds me that I want to share something else. But yeah, so the video that I shared is about the altitude of Polaris over an Earth that is not a sphere. Because when we say Polaris is 4,000 mile, you'll get a flat earther that's going to say no. Maybe it works with 3,500 or 6,000. So that video, I made a surface, and the surface cannot be flat. I mean, I changed the altitude, and I changed the surface so that when you move one latitude line, you get this 1 degree. I mean, you can play the video and maybe
Yeah. Where you got it?
It explained. Where did I put it? I think I put it in the Daily Boom. I'll go and get it. Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, if you want to. Let me see. Flat Earth. Take your pick. For the shape of the Earth. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'll open it and I'll share that. Let me pause this. I'm gonna. Hold on. Okay. If I share the screen, let me clear the video. You should be able to see it. Let me know when you see it. Let me share it for everybody on YouTube. In 10 seconds, we'll play it. All right. Two people watching. That's Farmer's Boy and Flip Flop. So Crow XC, which is the one that want to share the video, is not watching. I wait for him to see the screen.
I think that was his phone going. I suspect he's got a call.
Yeah, right.
Which is
what's up, man?
comedy timing.
Right. Perfect timing, indeed.
Yeah. Oh yes. Can I just say thank you, Jose. I have now caught up with Peacemaker.
Nice, man. But you caught up like all the way till episode 7?
Yep. Yeah, I was watching it this afternoon whilst I sat here working.
The last 2 episodes have been crazy. They're funny, right? It's fun.
Thank you. I weren't sure when I watched the first one. I thought I don't know
Yeah.
about this, but I'll stick with it. It's brilliant.
Oh,
Absolutely brilliant.
it is fun. And that's the same sentiment as like, is this gonna be this silly and this long and dragging weird type of comedy? But it actually is. It's actually decent show, man.
Yep. No, that's had me laughing quite a lot through it.
Yeah,
It's like yeah. And I was looking for something else this afternoon. I thought, oh hello, new Peacemaker. Yeah, we'll have a bit of that. That'll make work a bit more bearable, you know.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
watched
No, it
that
was,
earlier today. I watched that episode 7. It was funny.
yeah.
Man. I was waiting
Yes.
for it.
Yeah.
The
No,
finale. One more to go, and that's it. Yeah, I think it's very.
is there, oh,
Yeah, I
that's
think
right.
it's
Because
8 episodes.
yeah, that's right. There is. Yeah, I forgot there is only 8. Oh shit!
So
I
I
should have
think
left it
just
for a week.
the last episode is just the big boss. You know, I like that, man. The big boss is the cow. I don't want to give anything away just in case
I
anybody
know
haven't
you
watched it.
finally get to see the cow. It's like, right, okay.
Yeah, no spoilers, but I think they're gonna go against the cow at the end.
Oh,
It's funny shit.
that's going to be messy.
Uh, you know what? Because one of my favorite movies, and I actually watched it once. I said, like, dude, this movie is awesome. It is from one of the earliest movies of James Gunn, the director of this, and it's
Mhm.
Slither.
Yes, that rings a bell. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
Slither was like, I don't know, like a parasite, alien parasite, and he eats people. And I remember like, what is wrong with me? A big fat woman, and she explodes or whatever, like in a barn. That was one
Yes.
of the earliest James Gunn, and I haven't seen that movie again, but it was like one of my favorite at that time. I gotta revisit it because that's really good.
Sorry, I had a phone call.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to explain first this
Right.
first image.
Okay.
So this red line is actually 90 dots. So the distance between each dot is 60 nautical mile. That's scaled. Okay.
Right.
And the reason that line is curved that way is to make the angle change for Polaris at an altitude of 4,000 kilometer degrade by 1 degree for each point. So the last point at the right side, the angle to Polaris from there is 0. That simulates the equator. So I will change the altitude of Polaris, and the shape is going to change to see what shape is going to fulfill this linear equation. Okay, now you can play it.
All right. Yeah. This is free music,
Yes, it's from YouTube.
free YouTube music.
Yes.
Epic music. How about that?
There's a thing.
All right, talk to us.
Yeah, see, even at the moon distance, we can know that there's a sphere.
Yeah.
1 million kilometer, oh, sorry. I was watching YouTube. So-
You're behind.
yeah, I'm way behind.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen over here on Discord.
Yeah. So the point is, if someone asked me how far is the sun, I would say not less than 1 million kilometers. Because at 1 million kilometer, if we observe the sun from different locations on the Earth, even though the rays are not exactly parallel, but we'll get that shape, semi-spherical shape.
Mm.
It's,
Now, this video may not be convincing to some people, may not be understood or felt. Like, sometimes your brain feel science, not just understand it.
I don't understand it.
But you feel it. Yeah, I'm sure everyone has a certain feelings of knowledge and science. Some things doesn't make sense to you. Oh yes, this makes sense, etc. So what I was saying, this video may not be convincing, may not make sense to some people, but what I give credit for this video is that it is something different. That some people may hook up on it and see something.
Right. Well, good stuff. Hopefully somebody will give you some feedback on this, that either I hope that somebody that disagree with this, with the data you're presenting, come back and give you some good feedback. I can't give you positive or negative because I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm graph illiterate. Graphically illiterate.
Well, Sleeping Warrior gave me feedback on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said, who told you that every 111 kilometers away from the North Pole, the angle to Polaris degrees gets less by 1 degree?
Oh, good grief.
So,
You just measure it.
yeah, he said, no, this prove to me.
Don't use a bloody sextant.
It wasn't the year of the sextant yet.
No, I know, but well, that's typical
Well,
of him, isn't it? I mean, yeah.
I was asking the same that Paul just asked in the chat box. Why did the curve go limp? Like, new.
Yeah, because if the point or the star, if it's too far from the starting point, then the end point should be almost parallel to the direction in order to get this 0 degrees of elevation angle. But I have something more useful than this video. It's an idea. I suggest maybe it could be good and make some dynamic for the show. There's wonderful videos made by many debunkers, and there's stupid videos made by many flat earthers. And these videos they go forgotten after time, or some people know it and talk about it, and some people don't. The newcomers, they don't know about it. So how many people saw the video of Sleeping Warrior when he cannot get the angles of a triangle with sides 1, 1, 1? So
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've seen that.
yeah,
I went to I was in that call. I was when that happened live. I was in the room. I was in the room.
Oh my god!
And I was quiet, and I was like, I didn't comment on anything until the end. And then I said, like what's going on here? I said, like, oh, did you hear Riley Sleeping Water? I said, like, oh no, actually, I joined that call, the Discord server where that was happening. And everybody was, haha, like, what a fucking dumbass. I said, like, what happened? Oh, I said, no. Wait, we got a question for you. What is, and then they asked me the question. I said, like, let me think. Hold on. So you should add to 180. So he's 60, right? And they go like, yeah, man, you got it. Because, and they explain me what happened. I said, like, oh, shit. That's kind of basic, geometry. And then that video went crazy all over the place, recorded on the Sleeping Warrior side.
Well, he does say some absurdly stupid things, but I mean, that is only equalled by Oakley not being able to convert meters into kilometers.
Yes.
I mean, had it been something like feet into miles, I could understand it because they're not straightforward numbers. But converting meters into kilometers, because it's a metric system, all you're doing is moving the bloody decimal point. That's all you've got to worry about. You ain't got how many feet are there in a mile, blah blah blah. None of that. All he's got to do is move the decimal point. And he just quite clearly didn't understand the concept of dividing meters by 1,000 to get kilometers, and that was just. I did facepalm when I first heard that.
The triangle dance.
Yeah.
But yeah, the triangle, yeah. Oh.
So I was suggesting something like the housekeeping, but in the way of today
Globe side,
we have
the opposite.
these
the
two
opposite
videos.
view.
Yeah. So we play those two videos of Nathan and Sleeping Warrior today, and maybe the next week we play a video for whatever Garway Venga or Pukit Word. So something like that. I don't know about copy strikes, but on the other side, you can also start the show with great videos that are gone forgotten, and maybe you can invite debunkers to send you nomination, and you have some committee to select the best one for every show to run.
I don't know. I don't want to compromise to that. If it happens, it happens organically. I don't want to plan anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a good question. Like, what is the? I mean, can you present a picture or illustration of Earth as a whole? That's one. Of the whole Earth, not the whole Earth, of Earth as a whole. As a one picture or drawing or crayon. I don't want to say model. I want to say a picture or illustration, because I can show you pictures or illustrations of the globe. As a whole, Earth as a whole. Yeah, you're not going to see the whole thing because it's a spherical object, it's 3D. But if flat Earth, would be able to present the Earth as a whole, which you see the whole thing, all the continents in one.
Yep. They've had 2,500 years to map it.
Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, they say that nobody can do that. Yeah. They say they can have it. Yeah. So that's one. That's a
very
fail.
convenient.
Yeah, their answer is no. Can you present a picture of Earth as a whole? No, that's their answer. I mean, they even if they can dance around and they want to ask all kinds of questions, their answer is no. Now, ask the globe. Can you present a picture of Earth as a whole? Yes, everybody can.
Yeah, I've got several. I've got choices, all taken by at different times by different sources. They're not all NASA. And guess what? They're actually photographs taken with cameras using film.
Yeah, exactly. And then you choose what you want to present. I can present a crayon drawing of Earth, like super dark blue, and then some little green patches that look like Americas or something. That is a representation of the Earth. It doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but it's a representation. Now I can show you a photograph of the 1972 Blue Marble or one of the Epic or Himawari satellite or shit. I can show you that, and that's what the Earth looks like from very far away as a whole. That's it. But they can't. They can show one of the AE map. Oh, you want a flat Earth as a whole here? Well, then you commit to it. They agree. Then that's the way the Earth looks. They got to commit to it.
Yes.
They can't.
And of course, when we present one of these photographs, they just say, "Oh, well, that's CGI or that's a cartoon."
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it's a representation of reality. Yeah.
Every image that they have of a flat Earth, as whichever belief system they want to go with, every image they have is a cartoon. It's CGI. It's just a drawing, because they don't have any photos of the flat Earth, and we all know why. Because it's not fucking flat.
And to feel confident, they say that the photographs of the Earth from very high up, they have to say that they are not real, because they want to feel comfortable. They're gonna feel comfortable, like, oh, if we don't have it, they cannot have it. So I'm gonna say those are fake too.
Oh, it's CGI. Oh, it's a painting. Really? Well, that's a claim. Go ahead and show evidence for it. Oh, that's right. You can't, can you? CGI taken in 69 or 71 or 72. Really?
Falsification is your. Oh shit! I forgot it. God damn it.
Don't start that old crap.
Independent of replacement.
You just got to say it quicker, in a Wixit style, or I'm not going to mention the other one. God.
Actually, that may be true, because you don't need to find a replacement to falsify.
No.
If you show that the logic is wrong, that what you said, what you predicted is wrong, that's all you need.
Well, falsification is independent of replacement. The problem is that we falsified the flat Earth many times, at least the propositions of it. So we don't have to replace it with a globe. It's just not flat.
Here we go. Case in point, Mr. Wybenger's just posted. When I show a video with boats disappearing bottom first without a curve, really? I've never seen that.
No, neither have I. I seen videos with a, where the camera can't capture, the whole thing because of, the way the camera works. But it's not because it's not over the curve. Not like that. The boat never disappears bottom first when it's not over the curve. The camera play tricks on you. Doesn't mean it is, doesn't mean the Earth is flat.
Oh no, the Earth isn't flat. That's the ludicrousness of the situation that people think it's actually up to debate. I mean, it's not. We know it isn't. We know what shape the bloody Earth is. We've known it for a long time.
Shout out to Yomungus, Steve Wilson, Paul, Ben Delight, Gary Webenga, Charlie Welsh, Diggus Duggus, Paul, Leal, Justin Franks, Stone Monkey, and everybody else. Got a shout out earlier, but Anamorphic Mind, and Dennis Wellbone, maybe. Boom! Shout out to Jim's Mind. So when we talk to Jim's mind, we're not talking to Jim, we're talking to his mind. All right.
Oh, right.
Makes sense.
I see.
I just started. Anyway, no more movies and TV shit.
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, let's put Homer Simpson just shoving his face with looks like shit, but it's not.
Probably
Donuts.
donuts.
Yeah, probably donuts.
If it's Homer Simpson stuffing his face, it's donuts, isn't it? Especially as he looks like he's at work. So.
No, I just started half an hour ago, pretty much. I got a drawing to make. I got some Muppets to draw.
Muppets.
Yeah, I'm gonna draw Muppets today. It's gonna be an easy one. It's not gonna be the most famous Muppets, but it's gonna be a cool Muppets drawing. I'll finish the cigarette and bring it out here and start doing it. I'll show every once in a while the results.
Yeah.
If anybody else want to share something, you want to share something, Croxy?
Yeah, I shared the video 2 times, but just look, I just would like to start from the second one because it starts near the end. I just want to show something. I don't want to show the whole video. It's about finding the path of the eclipse on a physical model. So you can play the second one starting from 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Stand still. It's long exposure. Yeah, so I think that's it. We can see how this funny eclipse happened. And something more to add. The Earth's rotation also have some effect to whatever shape you see. Because this shape we see now without the Earth rotation. If you added Earth rotation from west to east, yeah, from west to east, then this shape will be a little bit curved this way or this way. But anyway, you get the idea. Thank you for watching.
Now, if you can show the thumbnail, because the thumbnail shows the actual shape of the eclipse, so that it can be compared with this. It's in Discord. You cannot see it now.
Of course,
Hold
it'll
on.
look.
I'll take a screenshot and post it.
No, actually, I can do something. It's not gonna be perfect. But, this it's gonna have the YouTube logo in the middle.
Yes. So that that blue line, that curved line, is the one that I predicted. Well, not really predicted, but it's the one I made, because this eclipse happened in 1968. So I took the parameters of the moon and the sun and on that day, and I kind of predicted the path of the solar eclipse. Physical model. Shout out to Gary Wabinga.
Hmm.
Because every time Stingray comes, he say, "No, this is your model. This is mathematical. Blah blah blah." No, I don't need a computer or software. We can do everything, almost everything. We can do it with a physical model.
Nice. And you wanted to play something on this one or not? Or is the same? Is
Yeah,
the time stamped?
Explaining things sometimes is not useful. So just the image is important.
Okay. All right. Very cool, man. What do you guys think? I don't understand it. Crow XT. I am eclipse illiterate.
Know your limits. Yes, well done.
Yeah, know your limits, indeed. I am eclipse illiterate. I don't know about these paths of the eclipses. I gotta burn
yeah.
myself before somebody else try to.
Well, in this experiment, instead of the shadow of the moon moving with the Earth, I produced light to move on the Earth. That's the laser light.
Okay.
Yeah, and I made this what you call it trail image, just to stack the video images one on top the other to get this the final shape.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's it. It's an image.
Yeah. This actually from a video by Thrive and Survive. He said how come the path of the eclipse move in this funny way? It should move west to east only, or east to west. I can't remember.
It's Thrive and Survive. The dude that sits down to talk to people, and he got very weird eyebrows and very bubbly body.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, thank you. I thought so.
Of course, it'll work. The whole thing was designed off of the whole globe model was designed to mimic what happens on the flat Earth.
Reverse engineered.
Yeah.
I gotta be. The dogs are going crazy. I gotta shut them up. One of my dogs is in heat, and I got him separated. And there's one of the dogs is just fucking don't stop fucking whining.
Yes, of course, all these diagrams make a bit more sense when they're actually sort of curved background onto a sphere. I think that often gets lost on them.
Yeah, once you go into a 3D perspective, it's all gone.
Yeah, it's like those old charts they used to have up at NASA, and that showed the flight path of whatever that was orbiting the Earth, and it looks like it's been doing big loops up and down across the map, and it's like, yeah, until you turn it around and turn it into a sphere, and then, oh, it's a circular orbit.
Talking about orbits, did you see Elon Musk lost like 40 satellites?
Yes, it was a was that solar interference or something?
Solar storm.
Geomagnetic storm.
No, the I'm not sure about geomagnetic storm, but maybe some solar storm, something like that. It made the atmosphere height increase, and so there was a lot of drag, and they couldn't orient the satellites properly.
Let's just have a look, because I saw something in my Twitter stream, but I didn't bother reading up on it.
I watched Scott Manley.
Yeah, I heard the Scott Manley thing too.
Scott Manley. Manley. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Manly man.
Manly man. Oh,
if
yes.
it was,
I see what you mean,
so we could call him. I mean, it depends. He could be Scott Gurley, but he chose to be manly. He doesn't have to specify. I mean, if he's a man, he doesn't have unless he's into the pronouns and all that shit.
I don't think he chose. I think he just is very manly. Scott.
And he doesn't look girly at all.
No, he doesn't.
That would be a bad girl.
So that confused me more. If he doesn't look girly at all, why does he have to add the adjective behind his name and say he's manly?
Well, I think that is his name.
Oh, shit. Name the namers.
I know, using their own names. I mean, good grief. Oh yes, a rapid magnetic field variation typically caused by a strong surge of solar winds. So yes, ultimately it was caused by solar winds, and that upset the Earth's magnetic field. And I think these satellites were the last ones launched, weren't they?
Yeah.
Out of that batch, yeah. Oh, I suppose there'll be quite a few people who go, "Oh no, oh dear, there's a few less of his bloody satellites in the way."
Not to worry, they'll be back soon.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, he's launched 2,000 odd, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
I think the original plan was for 13,000.
Something like that, something silly. I think even NASA now have sort of said, "Here, hang on a minute. This might not be such a good idea, Like nobody else could figure that out. Yeah, let's just put another 10 to 13,000 satellites in orbit. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of stuff up there already. Fucking hell. I mean, look, there's photos of the ISS come out in the last couple of weeks. There's damage to it. It's been taking hits all over the place. Poor thing. There's so much crap floating around, or well, not just floating, of course. It's moving with the ISS as well. Yeah, there's stuff up there that's doing 17,000 miles an hour. It just depends on where it is relative to the ISS. But the Canadarm's taken a punch. And one of the radiators has taken a hit. And you think,
Shout out to Brian Mabbett. He just joined.
Shout out, man. Shout out.
There's
Some people say some ridiculous things, don't they?
gnarliest things, man.
yes, hello, Brian.
Ludicrous things.
Ludicrous.
Speaking of ludicrous, hey Brian, how you doing?
He is Mr. Ludicrous.
Good times. Brian Mabbett, there was a housekeeping question, and it's can you present a picture or illustration of Earth as a whole?
As a whole, how the fuck can you do that?
Well, if you launch something very, very, very high up, you can do that.
Objection.
I don't think it'll be a whole, though, will it?
No.
I have an objection.
Yeah.
You asked a question, Jose, and you were responded to by a question.
Yeah.
Where's the answer? So it's a yes or no. Something
Yeah,
like that.
no. The question. All right. I don't have to rephrase the question. Can you present a picture or illustration of the Earth as a whole? It's like a whole thing. Like it has parameters it had the outside. You can see the outside of the Earth, you know. Well, can you present that?
I've just done it. Show that video I've just put in.
Okay, let me see what you got.
Yeah, we know that during winter the south.
Oh, I
Rim
can't
all
play
lit
this
up.
type of videos. It's got to be YouTube or a screenshot. YouTube or web page. I cannot present this type of videos.
You can download it.
Yeah, but I cannot share it with you. I can play it, but I cannot share that with YouTube.
It's only a sound clip anyway. Just play it and we'll listen to your sound over your mic.
Yeah, I got that. I can do that on my play it on my phone.
Amazing how some people say ridiculous things.
Okay, let me. So wait, guys. Let's not go too far. So, for a question, I asked Brian a question to show an illustration. He's giving us an audio clip. Does that make sense? Let's see what this audio clip will say. Let's pump up the volume and I'll play it via my thing.
Yeah, let's see what I've got to say.
Hold on.
Stupid things. It's only equal by Oakley, not in meters into kilometers. He just quite clearly didn't understand the concept of dividing meters by 1,000 to get kilometers. That's some absurdly stupid things. Of dividing meters by 1,000 to get kilometers. That's some absurdly stupid things. Of dividing meters by 1,000 to get kilometers. That's some just going to loop
the
stupid things. Of dividing meters.
Yeah. So what does this have to do with picture or illustration of Earth from space, Brian?
Because if you divide a meter by 1,000, you get 1 millimeter.
Right, so we get the picture of Earth from space that I asked you. I thought we get the picture of Earth as a whole, because that was my question. My question was not a math question. My question was a I want to see it question.
So anybody can have a slip of the tongue, can't they?
Yeah, but the slip of the tongue doesn't have to do with you cannot present a picture of Earth, or can you?
Oh, Jose, let me ask Brian this question, please.
Right.
Brian, how do you convert meters into kilometers?
Times them by 1,000.
No. Thank you very much. That is quite possibly the funniest thing I have heard today. You're as equally as dumb as Oakley. Thank you.
How do you say that question again?
Brian,
listen to what you're saying.
I'll ask you a simple.
Shut up, Chikey.
Brian, a more simple question. How many kilometers? How many kilometers?
How do you divide fucking meters into kilometers? You times meters into kilometers, not a fucking divider.
Okay.
So if I have 40 meters,
you divide a kilometer.
Brian,
we cannot interrupt this. We got to talk and let talk, because I'm going to start muting people. Farmers Boy, you interrupting by laughing.
Sorry.
Chai, you're interrupting by interrupting, just interrupting. Can you let him rant? Can you, Chai, you're still doing it. Brian Mabbett, you're just ranting over me when I'm trying to get some peace over here. Brian Mabbett, I would like you can speak, you can make your thought. If you want to repeat it 3 times, please do it. I don't want Chai to interrupt it. I don't want anybody to interrupt by laughing. I want Brian to say what he has to say. If he has to repeat it. But Brian, you have to say, I am done. You got to mute yourself and you got to allow others to speak, and that other person will be Chai right after you are done talking. Chai, if you interrupt, you'll be muted for the rest of the show. Brian Mabbett, go ahead. I'll mute myself too.
You do not divide meters to get a kilometer. You divide a kilometer to get meters. A slip of the tongue, you did exactly the same as maybe Nathan did. Thank you.
Thank you. You done, I guess. So, Chaik, go ahead.
Yeah. How many kilometers is 1 meter, Brian?
There is 1,000 meters in a kilometer. There is not any kilometers in a meter.
So to go from meters to kilometers, you'd have to divide mathematically. Just like saying that there are, 12 eggs in a dozen. If you wanted to go from 1 egg to a dozen, to figure out how much of a part of a dozen one egg is, you'd have to go from the smaller to the bigger by dividing the smaller unit 1 egg by the bigger unit 12 in the dozen, basically.
Why have you brought
So
eggs
1
into
divided
this
by
meet?
12 for 1/12 of an egg in a dozen, 0.001 meter for 1 kilometer when you move the decimal place over like 3.
So we can
You'd have to
all
divide by 1,000.
the tongue, can't we, farmers?
Brian, how many kilometres is 5,000 metres?
5 kilometres.
And how did you work that out?
I divided. There is 1,000.
You divided the metres by 1,000, didn't you?
You never said that. Let's listen to what you said.
I know exactly what I said, and it's exactly the same question that Oakley got asked, and he got it wrong just the same as you did.
Farmer's boy, you are correct.
I know I am.
Understand the concept.
Yes, you are. When you're right, you're right.
Get kilometres.
Dividing meters by 1,000, you had said.
Yes.
Absurdly stupid.
If you divide a meter by 1,000, you get 1 millimeter.
No.
Stupid things.
If you look, look, stop that so it's not interfering in the background. If I say you've got a distance of 6,500 meters, you divide that by 1,000, that gives you 6.5 kilometers. That's how you do it.
Mathematically, Mr. Mabbett, yes. Now, if you want to go into another,
you don't times meters by 1,000 to get kilometers. You divide the figure of meters by 1,000 to convert it into kilometers. No, you don't.
Because
Well,
there is a
fucking idiot then.
meters in a kilometer.
Yes, so if I say it's 1,400 meters, 1,400 meters, you divide it by 1,000. Yes, you divide that figure by 1,000 to get 1.4 kilometers. I mean, for fuck's sake.
Think of it this way, Brian. Think of it this way: if I want to know how many kilometers 1 meter is, and I divide it by 1,000, I end up with a meter is 1/1,000th of a kilometer, which is the correct answer.
He said you divide meters by 1,000.
Yep.
And if you divide a meter
What
by
I just
1,000, you
You
get
take-
1 millimeter.
No, you don't. You're not doing. You're not changing the distance. The distance remains the same. You're changing the unit.
Units.
So the thing is, if I have 1 meter and I want to know how many kilometers that is, and I divide that meter by 1,000, I end up with 1/1,000th of a kilometer, which is 1 meter. The distance didn't change, the units did. Oh my God.
It was just his terminology. Divide meters by 1,000.
Yep, that's right.
If you divide a meter by 1,000, you get 1 millimeter.
No.
You meant divide all of the meters by 1,000.
That's why I said divide the meters. I didn't say divide the meter. It wasn't singular, it was plural.
All right, I'll take it back. Sorry.
You've made a complete fucking tit of yourself, mate. Well done.
I haven't.
Yes, you have.
You have, Brian.
You said
Well, let's not go crazy.
You
We're
made
doing good.
exactly the same mistake that Oakley did.
We're doing good.
Yeah. If you times meters by 1,000, you get lots and lots of millimeters. If you divide meters by 1,000, you get kilometers. I mean, that's the whole simple charm of using the metric system. You're just moving the decimal point. You don't have to remember how many bloody chains and furlongs and feet there are in a mile. None of that bollocks. It's millimeters, meters, kilometers. It's very simple.
Get kilometers.
He's just going to keep playing it and playing it, isn't he?
It's good. We're doing good.
I apologise. You said meters as opposed to a meter. So,
well, yeah.
That's probably me going mutton, Jeff. Sorry.
And the thing I was going to ask is, if you had 40 meters, how many kilometers that is? You don't times it by 1,000, or that'd be 40,000 or 4 kilometers. I mean, that doesn't make any sense multiplying.
Yeah, 40 meters is 40,000 millimeters, or it's 0.04 of a kilometer. 500 meters is 0.5 of a kilometer. You know, it's nice and easy. You're just moving the decimal point. You've just got to remember to move it in the right direction.
Yeah, this math can be a little difficult, but going from the smaller unit, 5,000 meters to kilometers, you would divide by 1,000 to go from meters to kilometers, right, Mr. Mabbett? Mathematically, you do that.
And it's a very easy system compared to what your boys over in the States are still using, because you're still working in imperial.
Farmers, ask me the question. Ask me the question about the kilometers and the meters.
How do you convert meters into kilometers?
I am sorry, but I am metric illiterate. I cannot answer that question.
That's fine.
Yeah, but how many millimeters are in a kilometer?
I am metrical illiterate.
1.62 kilometers makes a mile. You should know that.
Well, the good thing about the English system is it's linked to actual history. It was the king's foot or something like that that made the foot. It was, I don't know, the king's thumb or a portion of his thumb that made the inch. Stuff like that. It's linked to history.
Well, it is. But you're about the only country left in the world that still uses it.
1,760 yards in a mile.
See, they're silly figures. But the metric system is so much easier to work with.
Yeah.
Well, history is very important, gentlemen. The liar can't lie about history, but they can lie up and down something changing like the metric system. What is it bound to historically? Absolutely nothing.
But that doesn't have to be. Why does it have to be bound to something in medieval times or something? That's totally unnecessary and pointless.
It's important because it helps check the liar farmers. History is hard for the liar to fudge. You need something actual in history.
We're talking about meters and kilometers here, for fuck's sake.
I heard that the meter was linked to the speed of light, but what if the speed of light itself changes? We appear to be in a very flexible universe, so linking it to the speed of light or whatever the heck they change itself. You need a historical metric that is unchanging and constant, gentlemen, to check the liar.
Right.
Can I just get this very straight very quickly? So the meter is basically a relationship between the equator and the North Pole. It's a fraction of that distance. Secondly, the imperial system was introduced in the 1600s as our empire started to expand. So we had a standard unit, mainly actually of weight more than distance, because, you know, we used to sell stuff and steal stuff and we like to know how much it weighed. But that all came under that same precept. So both of which are relatively new. Now you can go back to the mile, and that, you know, the old wives' story was that was 1,000 Roman paces.
Well, the main thing, Mr.
But
Dress,
none of it was to do with a king's foot or thumb.
Well, the main
You're thinking of a cubit, which is from the tip of your finger to your elbow. And one of the problems with a cubit is everybody's cubit's a little different. So they then had what's called a stad, which was a Greek measurement, which was a standardization of a cubit into a rod. And that's where we get the distance of a rod from the Greek stad, because stad is Greek for staff.
Well, I guess the main thing, Mr. Druss, is having something that isn't going to change by the vicissitudes of fate or changing standards. If we find out, say, that the Earth is a flat, motionless plane, unless somebody has gone from the real center of the Earth, the North Pole, toward the equator, even that metric may change by the vicissitudes of fate. We need something that is tied down by history and verifiable back, like the king's foot, the portion of the king's thumb, or whatever. That's what we need to help, you know, print the liar.
Patience.
So again, I hope that's taught you a little bit about the imperial unit, the metric unit, and where we got the mile from, and the relationship between the cubit, the rod, and the stad.
So we need units that are related to history, Dress, not something that's going to change like the radius of the supposed pagan ball Earth, or something that's tied to the speed of light, which may vary and change.
But if anybody can make a meter stick and they all come out the same length, you've got a good standard.
Lemon, but the king's dead. How do we verify that the foot is really a foot?
We have the testimonials of the people that survived. That's good enough. They remember and we trust them.
Hold on a second. So if you have the testimonials of the people that survive, we've got the testimonials of all the people who've been to space and have come back. So that should be good enough then.
Yeah.
Not
sense.
quite. Not quite.
Yep. that does
Why?
make
What's the
sense.
difference? What's the difference? Why do we accept testimony from one side and not the other?
Their testimony doesn't jibe. It doesn't match. It would be the same as the astronauts if you had a bunch of people from back then saying the inch was this, the inch was this, the inch was something else. That would be the same as the astronauts, but they can't even get their story straight.
So how do we determine what to accept? How do we determine
We
it?
go off of consistency. If they're saying a consistent narrative, maybe we can believe them. But until then, we're going to have to craft our own consistent narrative because of how consistent they are when they say there were stars, there weren't stars, you know, stuff like that.
That's fine. So in that case, then we've got to reject the flat Earth because none of the explanations are consistent.
It's not consistent. Yeah, that makes sense.
They come together about the Earth being flat and motionless. Most
They
of them
come together about the fact that they've been to space.
Now, Druss, they do disagree on certain elements. Some of the more
so the flat earthers disagree.
Don't interrupt like that, Dross. You gotta be patient.
Sorry.
Now, man.
Druss appears to be chomping at the bit to come in. Druss, what are you
trying to keep it short, sharp interchanges? One claim at a time rather than a long ramble.
Well, the thing is, Druss, I'm not a myopic, left-brain, closed-minded person. I take a mess of information and make a tapestry effectively. Focusing on one thing is not my style. It doesn't help me answer any question. When I'm faced with questions like this, Druss, I come back with a mess of information to help solve the problem, much better informed than the myopic left-brain thinker who focuses on one thing to the exclusion of other things. I'm so sorry, Druss. It's just not my style. I'm more of a
load of information
thinker.
With that word salad.
When we're talking about logical premises, though, they tend to be, points that we make in an argument, which are, so what we can do is, what I was using was paraconsistent logic, which was comparing both sides of the argument based upon the logic that you're delivering to me. And as soon as we start doing that, your argument becomes self-defeating.
You're using logic to destroy logic. You're ultimately not making a point. You're just saying, you're doing the same thing as I am, therefore you can't make a claim. You're basically trying to intimidate the other person into silence by taking away the basis for their reasoning. You're using anti-reason, Druss. You're not really reasoning to a conclusion properly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you've been called out, Druss.
What was that question again, Jose?
Can you present a picture or illustration or an image of the Earth as a whole, please?
Not with the firmament in the way. Neither can NASA. They take the picture of the horizon and its barrel and curve distorted, and they say, voila, curve, use their CGI with Chris Simmons or whatever that CGI artist's name is, where they take a photo of the flat surface and then use curved shadow work on it, and that's what appears to be the case. So with the firmament in the way, you're not going to see the whole thing. You'll see like the horizon, and it'll be curved and barrel distorted from there, it appears.
But hold on, Brian, one clarification. Brian, if you want to draw it, like I can show you a drawing of Earth as a whole. It's gonna take me a little time, but I got art. I got artistry, and I can show you. I can draw a spherical Earth. I can draw it from, showing either the Americas or Europe or any of that. I can do that for you. You can draw illustration of the Earth as a whole. Yes, you can.
And I think it's a bit mean to cast shade on Chris Simmons, who merely said that they're taking composite images and Robert Simmons and sticking them together. Sorry, actually, Chris Simmons is a friend of mine. Sorry for adding you there on YouTube, Chris. And putting that together, he never, no one's ever said that he's adding curvature to it or any of these other things. I think that's a very, very cruel and slanderous statement to make about that person when you have no evidence to support those additional claims.
There's no shame in doing your job, but now it's fake Rita Pebble. So they show you that the Earth is a flat, motionless plane. If you go up there with pictures that are not as barrel distorted as their fisheye fakery. But basically, they can take a picture of the limited surface that they can see, put it in curved shadow, CGI, or whatever, and voila, there's your atheizing Greek pagan ball.
But you have no evidence of that.
We have evidence that these are not one-off pictures, that they're CGI manipulated swaths and puzzle pieces that can be manipulated in any way that you like, and we don't have evidence of curvature relative to a straight standard like a laser, line of sight, or anything like that with long distance. So without any curvature, you don't even really have a ball.
So line of sight, we see the effect of curvature via line of sight. You can do this by just going down to the ocean standing at the same height as a feature on a boat, keeping it in the center of your P1000 camera of choice, and you'll realize that after it gets to the horizon, very shortly after, it won't sit on the center line anymore. And that's not a feature of the lens. It certainly isn't a feature of perspective. And if you think otherwise, I'd need citations for that.
We have Life is Short showing that stuff is vanishing into the surface. Even your line of sight, effectively, Stingray, looking out over the water, is converging, merging, and disappearing. And with your line of sight disappearing, you're going to need to check your line of sight with a laser to double check what your deceptive eyes are showing you. But otherwise, you're seeing a flat surface and a flat plane.
Camera, not eyes. Camera. Always a camera, not eyes.
Stingray, the camera works off the same principles. It has to focus light just like your eye does, and it will form a horizon just
Lemon,
like your eye.
But we need to maximize. We need to see more. We need to see a little further, so our eyes aren't going to do it. We need cameras for that.
Yeah. And another thing, cameras do not work the same as eyes. There is a huge variance in eyes. And the recollection of those images, the mind actually paints a picture in 10-degree increments, and they are recalled. They are not live. So when you walk outside and you think you've just seen, like in the peripheral, some nice details, you haven't. You saw it in your forevision and recalled it, and your brain placed it there. Your eyes are not a reliable measuring instrument. And the only way to communicate that with someone else is words. Whereas a lens is manufactured to tolerances which do have very minute error tolerances, but they're documented. So let's use lenses and cameras of which there is no difference between the top of the lens and the bottom. Because if there were, people wouldn't hold them on the side or upside down because they'd get freaky results. And again, Lemon, perspective is this simple thing. The change in distance over size, or the size over the change in distance, the fractional change.
Then apply the same principle to the length of the visual zones in space that you're looking over. If you're saying that by perspective, a 6-foot pole will converge, merge, and disappear, then by the same logical extension and the same reasoning, Dress and Stingray, the 6-foot zone of visual space that you're looking through when you're 6 feet off of the ground with your eyes 6 feet off of the surface will converge, merge, and disappear into a horizon line. Also, because a line is nothing but a bunch of infinite points. And in this case, the horizon line is a bunch of infinite vanishing points extended from the observer outward and left and right. The principles are right there. Why aren't you applying them? Is it because you're too limited and myopic and left brain in your thought, following one point to the exclusion of all the others, and you're not integrating the information properly to make a proper conclusion? Then break the limited left brain paradigm and think about this from another perspective, pun intended.
Damn, you've been called out, Stingray. What the hell?
Right.
Why do you add 25
because
seconds
I
of
actually
bullshit?
understand perspective. You do not. You think it's some magic thing, whereas it's the fractional change in distance that you divide into the size of something. So that 6-foot person that you're stood 6 foot up, I can tell you how fucking big they're going to be if they're 100 pixels at that size versus when they're 12 foot away versus when they're 32 foot away, 48, 64, you name it, I can actually tell you how many pixels they're going to take up. That's perspective. It does not converge, merge, and blah, 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 into horizon because of eyes and 6 foot, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Citation, please.
Life is short.
This is why limited left brain thought is so deleterious to solving this problem. You need a theory for an experiment to show every single conclusion you could just logically make if you're being logical and consistent. Like I said before, a 6-foot pole will converge, merge, and disappear into a point and disappear. A 6-foot zone of visual information space from the level of the eyes down to the surface will be expected to do the same thing also. And there is no logic that you can use to counter that statement if you're using consistent logic and not just thinking in one limited way about the topic.
Just stop telling me, spending loads of airtime telling me what I think. You do not know what I think.
I can infer what you think by your responses. I'm not stupid and neither are you. Based off of your responses, you're thinking along a very limited line. if you cannot make the connection between the 6-foot pole disappearing and the 6-foot zone of vision disappearing into a point that you extend infinitely left to right to get a horizon line.
Lemon, you keep going over the same things that make no sense. I'm gonna try and get to clarity with you. Now, if we're just gonna say what we think of each other, you're batshit fucking crazy. You got no idea what you're on about, and everything you say is foundationless.
The way that you're thinking about the topic isn't helping you find a solution.
Nearly done. Instead of saying things like that, which you do to me, instead I was going to say, great. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of your hypothesis and test it in reality to see if it's true. So if I do indeed have a 6 foot, although feet is an alien thing to me, to be honest, but if I have a 6 foot object in front of me that takes up, let's say, 10 degrees in my vertical field of view, do you know that if that was, let's say, 100 foot away, do you know how far it would have to go to disappear into 1 degree? Could you work that out?
It would be like the tangent of 1 degree equals the height of the object divided by the distance of the object by your bad theory. The problem is vision is not made of discrete units where that math holds for all distances. Eventually, something that is above your eye level, if it's tall enough, will merge into the surface and break those rules that you're talking about. And it will merge into the surface at what appears to be a steep incline and a steep angle that breaks that tangent relationship right there. So what you're talking about is not quite accurate. It's a general prediction, but it's not quite prescriptive. It's not quite 100% accurate.
There was one tiny claim there of fucking 6 words, which you could have said. Beside and stop preaching.
Ray, half of what you say is blathering rhetoric. At least when I go on, I use dialectic. Half of what you say is blathering, emotion-filled rhetoric.
Blah, blah, blah. Jesus Christ, Lemon. Your 6 words, or thereabouts 6 words, could be the fucking following. It doesn't conform to angular size reduction due to distance. There is some other element there that causes it to change more or divergent to the laws of geometry, mathematics, and perspective, and it is this. This is the way you test it. So you're saying to me, a 100-foot building will disappear from the bottom up with distance. Brilliant. Without using the curvature of the Earth, how do I test that? And don't point to someone else.
HE50 has demonstrated the proof of concept simply by getting close to the flat surface. P-Brain has demonstrated it by getting close to the flat surface, be it the wall, the ceiling, or the floor. And Life is Short has demonstrated it. Names that I have invoked several times in this chat. I'm sure YouTube hasn't scrubbed this red pill yet. You can go and find it yourself, hopefully, or I can link it in the chat and you could go see for yourself.
Okay, I got a point I gotta make. A very important question in relation to history to Lemonbird. And with a big thank you for John Watson. John Watson, I see you, brother, on PayPal with 666. And that 666 brings a question for Lemonbird. Should we not ignore history now, Lemon? What about Eratosthenes, Aristarchus, Copernicus, Kepler, Newton, Einstein, and many, many more people?
Well, Eratosthenes did sticks and shadows and assumed what must first be proved, that it was a ball for his sticks and shadows to even be significant. At this point, I'm just going to stop speaking since the limited attention globers can't listen to me past a sentence without glazing over in their head. So Eratosthenes did sticks and shadows, but sticks and shadows does not a globe make.
Actually, it does, but that's another story.
And he already knew it was a globe.
Yeah, because you saw the boats going over the horizon, disappearing bottom first.
How do we interpret this data, gentlemen? At this point, we're talking about how to interpret what we see. And another way to interpret what appear to be boats going over some hump of Earth curve is converged visual angle, smashing the bottom portion of the boat and making it appear to disappear bottom up over a hump obstruction when it is a false impression.
Actually, they were smarter than
maybe
you.
Maybe your logic, like your assumption that the inch and the foot was for some reason based on a king's foot and a king's thumb, is also wrong. Because if your amazing multi-sided brain thinking has led you to that conclusion, and it's false, and it would take a very minimal amount of research to actually understand what it was, and I didn't even have to look it up.
Hi, Mandevil, are you new? I am new too. Sorry.
And yeah, so why is that? If you're not being, if your logic is this broken, what makes you think you're right about this? That's what I don't understand.
If what you're saying is logical, point out the logical flaw. All I'm hearing is blathering rhetoric from you and Stingray, but no real excuse as to why my logic is flawed. You're not pointing out a logical
I'll respond to that.
Therefore, I cannot conclude that you're
respond to
thinking logically enough to even understand what I'm saying or point out the flaws in it properly. So point out the logical flaws from Stingray, and maybe I would listen to you. Otherwise, blathering rhetoric. Sorry.
Wait, Dross, when you want to answer something, if a person still makes the point, how are you going to answer when they're not done speaking?
You just pipe up the moment you want to respond. I don't want to just overtalk you to the point where you forget, but let me finish my point. What are you saying, Dross?
So, your assumption on the foot and the inch was totally incorrect. That to me says that there's a problem in the logic that you're using to come to conclusions. Therefore, that's been demonstrated, I think, fairly reasonably to be correct. So, we haven't produced citations, etc., but I suppose we could do that. So, in that case, could it be that you're wrong about some of these other assumptions that you're making?
The assumption that you need to focus on, Druss, is why, if at all, would a 6-foot pole behave differently than a 6-foot zone of vision? You cannot provide an answer for that, so you do not have a case. You do not have a logical refutation. Therefore, I'm sorry, you're dismissed. I don't care how nice your British voice sounds. I don't care how much blathering rhetoric you use to try to buttress your non-existent point. Deal with that. The 6-foot object and the 6-foot zone of vision is the same, Druss. I'm sorry.
No,
Can you address the actual point, though? Because that was totally obfuscating away from the question.
Your point doesn't address the point. You try to go ad hom against me, Druss, and say, I don't have to believe you because I don't trust you. I made an objective point that you're not addressing. So what you're doing is a dirty tactic to try to undermine my credibility about something else that is not related, Druss. Deal with the point. Why?
I was in the middle of responding, and then he started talking immediately.
Did that happen, Lemon? Wow.
So all I'm saying, Lemon, is the fact that could you be wrong? Is the question. I pointed out somewhere where it looks like
deal with the freaking objective fact that a 6-foot broom would be the same as a 6-foot zone of vision. Don't try to go ad hom against me or try to undermine my credibility by trying to go against me personally. Who gives a shit about me? How would the 6-foot broom be any different than the 6-foot zone of vision converging to a point that would extend infinitely to the left and the right and become a line? It wouldn't be different, Druss. And once you cut through the bullshit, once you cut through the ad hom, once you cut through the sneaky, slimy way to try to undermine me as opposed to my point, you don't have a point, Druss. I'm sorry. I'm peering through the bullshit and I'm not seeing anything there.
Yeah.
So again, going back to the imperial system, you were totally wrong about that. So therefore, could you be wrong about what you're thinking about the shape of the Earth?
So, Druss, you don't have a case. Blathering rhetoric aside, ad hom aside, attempt to undermine my credibility aside, obviously, the 6-foot broom...
You don't need any help on that, mate.
Same as the 6-foot zone of vision.
No, actually, they're very different. They're very different, Lemon.
It's over.
You know nothing about optics, Lemon. You really don't.
Can I show you guys something that I thought of? And it's actually, this will be so easy for flat earthers to say, hey, look.
Are you going to screen share?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go live now. And it's actually really easy. It's really easy. So what you could do, and again with a P1000 camera of choice, bollocks. So long as you could do it relatively quickly, let's say a boat isn't the fastest fucking moving thing on Earth. What I have here is I have a camera looking at boats in the distance. I have an observer height of 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, and 4 meters. Now, the thing that you notice a lot about this ship, or about these two ships, are in fact the difference when we look at the different elevations, even just in 4 meters from the same location. So at 1 meter from the ocean surface, I don't know, oh, Jesus Christ, I don't know what these fucking things are that come out from the pilot house and extend. Lookout wings or something, God knows. But I can see these on the horizon. But then when we go to the 2 meter observation, they're actually above the horizon. and then even more above the horizon, and more above the horizon. Now, the vessel on the left, I can't see the deck, but I can when I get to 3 meters, and definitely at 4 meters. It would be so easy for a flat earther to say, hey, look, if curved, look, we'd see more, and this would be the prediction at this rate. But they don't. I wonder why that is.
We do see more when we go up on the flat Earth. Why wouldn't
She
we?
went up by a meter, and you can see like 2 or 3 meters more of the ship. And then, like, by the time you get to 4 meters, you're seeing like 10, 12 meters.
Well, yeah, no, this, so from the deck, well, the deck of this one, certainly, I think this vessel's like 20, 25, nearly 30 meters up to the pilot house from the deck. It's huge. It's an oil tanker. Well, it's a chemical tanker, this one, actually.
That's weird.
But yeah, Gary, so the thing is, this is a prediction for a curve. This is what we see on the ocean all the time, so I'll give you that. You only think this is what we see on a flat Earth because you assume the Earth is flat. The issue that I've got with your assumption is, if I have to shoot the hull of this boat, do I have to shoot through water? Okay, then.
The other thing I wanted to say, I don't know if Lemon's still here, but he always mentions the vanishing point. He likes to talk about discrete units and stuff like that. The vanishing point is not a discrete unit. It's optic system dependent. There is no quote-unquote single vanishing point. It's an infinite number of vanishing points depending on the system you're using.
Lemon understands nothing about optics. He really doesn't. He thinks that a stick shadow and this latest one buzzword he's using, the 6-foot zone of vision, are exactly the same thing.
I'm just gonna show for 30 seconds the drawing where I got it. This is the drawing. I gotta click for YouTube to see it. Hold on.
But that experiment on a beach would be so easy for flat Earth.
I just shared my camera for 30 seconds, but you're gonna have your camera back. This is the drawing that I got for today. I got 3 Muppets. I got the science Muppets. And don't be a Muppet. What do you say in the bottom? Science matters. There you go. Don't be a Muppet. Science matters. And it's kind of outlined a little bit.
It's hard to see, Jose.
But now I'm going to add colors to it, and it's going to be beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to share you again.
I'll share this, what I'm working on, just for the hell of it. Oh, what I was going to ask Lemon. Oh no, wait a minute. I was going to ask Lemon about where to shoot this boat, but yeah, this is just an FYI for anybody. I'm making a little animation of my new Earth shader, where I start out here, and then we come in, and the Earth is rotating, and it's also cycling through day and night, and you come up, and we get right in, we see India and the Mediterranean and Europe, and then it just settles down on the United States. That's fairly cloudy. So there you go. I'm just doing animations of my lovely, beautiful planet.
Cool.
But yeah, sorry. Just thought I'd share.
It's great. I didn't expect you to add clouds either.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Wait a minute. I'll show. Am I still showing? I'll show you these clouds. God damn. I had to create. It's a 21K. Oh no, actually, it's a 40. Now it's a 42K cloud image that I put together. Obviously CGI. But if I get close, let me get somewhere interesting. If I get close of Italy will do. So if I get close, it will gradually increase the detail of these clouds. So I'll just leave it. And it'll gradually get more detailed, more detailed, more detailed, more detailed, and then actually start shadowing them on the ground and all that kind of stuff as well. I'm really pleased with how it's come out, to be honest. It's still not, and there's a big clue in the there's a big clue as to why. It's still not as good as the ISS footage. I think I'm about 50% of the way there with this shader and the lighting system. I don't think I'll be able to match it 100%. I am now fairly confident of that. And there's a big reason why. And I obviously can't get live weather either, which is also another issue.
Stingray, we had spoken about the Chile measurement, and I was wondering if you see what I see in this image I post.
Do you see what I see? For those asking, yeah, one character in the left of the picture is Joe the legal whistle. He's a new character. He's making sure that the experiment is going good.
Who is Beaker's boss? I can never remember his bloody name.
The hell?
All Muppets use soccer. I'm sorry, I'm muting it out here. All Muppets use sock accounts.
Yes.
Yes.
And Stingray, just like as I said in a comment to Jose's video when he was drawing the Albert Einstein, you should be proud because this is an amazing job.
Yes.
Yes,
look at my clouds. I'm just so proud of these clouds now. And honestly, the Photoshop texture is like 4.5 gigabytes of 2D clouds. It's ridiculous.
How long before somebody claims that you're clearly working for NASA and you are producing live all of these digital images?
The issue, farmers, is I know now. Well, certainly using Blender anyway, and I don't do kind of planet atmospherics and shit like that. I never have, so it's just me just fucking around. But I know now that when I look at that ISS footage on my fucking Apple TVs, there's no way that I can get to that level of realism and detail.
No. And
then if you add the other extra thing on, as in I've got to procedurally generate these clouds to be plausible, that I lack the capability to do that. I really do. Yeah. And especially real time. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
That fucks me. But look at these clouds.
I think your computer would just go, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's still
on your flat Earth. And when you made a working flat Earth model also, or at least semi-working.
So I actually went on 24/7 today.
Yeah,
which was fun. They kept trying to assign me. I showed them the sun exact path predictor based off just the rotation of a sphere. They kept trying to assign me arguments. And in the end, they had to admit that it works, but there's loads of models that work. And I said, well, give me one, because I've been trying to make it on flat for a fairly long time. And they did actually show me, or one of them, that presented like 3. They showed me one which reminded me of my toroidal field or my light perturbation, which would get the sun in any location down to the ground and show sunrise and sunset. But the problem is, you're inventing physics. You have to invent physics. So not only is this electromagnetic perturbation field so powerful that it bends light in such a magnitude that is beyond comprehension, it also has another property. We can't detect it. Now, that is about the most ridiculous statement that you can fucking say. We lack the ability to detect an electromagnetic perturbation field that works on every spectrum of light, because it wouldn't just be fucking visible that it'd have to do this stuff. It would also have to do it to infrared, which is infrared predominantly being the thing that heats the fucking planet. And yeah, and we can't detect it.
That's magic.
You could build a few spheres, put yourself on there, and all you have to do is rotate it, and it works within the realms of our reality. or you can invent these magical things and just maybe make it work, but we've never detected them, and we should. That is just ridiculous.
With my Punta Arenas flat Earth map that I posted, they get 16 hours, 58 minutes of sunlight per day. And I was looking at it, and I was really surprised when I did it that actually you could look, set your P900 up and see sunrise and sunset in the same field of view with like a 60-degree optic.
Yeah, I mean,
So
the thing is,
40 degrees is how much it would move during the day.
I mean, the thing is, Ken, what they have is, imagine the sun being many thousands, and I'm talking, let's say 16,000 miles high. And then what happens is, imagine the light is emitted but perturbed by a toroidal field that then gives the impression of the apparent location. But that toroidal field only works close to the ground and in a very non-uniform way that bends light in such a degree and is also undetectable. You might as well just say God did it.
So, magic.
Basically magic.
Space wizards.
And if they don't believe that one, then they invent some aether bullshit that we can't detect.
I really wanted. I was actually going to do a live demonstration, by the way, of a camera, and because there's a common misconception about perspective with flat earthers and lenses and things, and the common misconception is the distortion of a lens is distance based. It is not. It's 2D plane based, which is at the fucking lens, and that is it. Moving an object away, or lines away, or a grid away, there is a consistent 2D distortion based on a projection outwards from that lens. It does not change or diverge over distance, and that's one thing, and that I can demonstrate. And then the second is they believe that zooming in or zooming out actually changes the relationship or heights of objects.
Yeah,
that's not what fucking zoom does.
No.
Zoom doesn't add or take away anything that's there. All it does is make shit bigger that is already there in the same fucking place. It can't do anything other than that.
We
You're
have
just
to
magnifying the image, aren't you?
we have to add, because Lemon Bear left, we have to add Brian Mabbett to the conversation.
Oh God.
So Brian Mabbett,
By the way,
because we lost 10 people viewing, and that's the least I want to do. Lose viewers.
What Stingray just said was full of shit.
Well, God is in the house to save the day.
Oh, there you go.
Stingray just made 10 people leave by boring them to death.
No, he didn't.
Well, I understand. Facts bore you, Mabbett. Science bores you. Facts bore you. Anything that's real bores you. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
I got interrupted there for a second. Can I finish what I was going to say?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us exactly.
I have never once said that zooming in or zooming out changes anything. I just said it magnifies whatever's available within the angle. That's all I've ever said.
Which
is what you just said. So thank you for confirming that what I've been saying is right.
No.
No.
Wait a minute. Me agreeing that you didn't say something doesn't make me agree with all the shit that you spew out that's wrong. I'm just saying my statement was not directed at you. Calm the fuck down. You are not the center of the universe.
You just said that we all say that zoom changes sizes of things, and I've never said that. And all these guys, when I say what you just said, all say I'm full of shit. So they should be saying the same thing to you. You're full of shit. Your model sucks. It really does. What do you got, like a 1 million zoom or an infinite zoom?
Gary,
and by the way, on your model, with two ships going away from each other, you had the blue portion at the bottom. Did you notice how it was becoming? It was getting smaller and smaller and hard to resolve from your artificial horizon on there. But then you zoomed in. It's hilarious.
Let's talk about your model, Gary.
Yeah, where's your model? If our model sucks, where's
yeah,
yours?
let's talk about Gary. Let's talk about your model.
No, you're going to have to come up with a model that actually works. Your model
So are
sucks.
you. Yours sucks too. You don't have one.
No, yours does. I have you guys all saw my video
our
by
model,
now.
our model is
with the
much
ships
better
and the
than yours.
turbines becoming unresolvable bottom first, and then you just make up all manner of excuses.
Gary's mobile
Pretend it
model.
doesn't happen, or that
Gary's
you
physical model is made out of rubber bands.
Anybody hear me?
How does that work?
Yes, Earth is live. Yes, we hear you.
Gary, how do you explain that observation on a flat Earth,
So
please?
Gary,
Which one?
The ship disappearing bottom up, the sun going down bottom.
I watched my video.
I watched the
It
video.
shows it. It shows it, and there was no curvature involved whatsoever in those videos.
Yeah, it doesn't show shit though, because you
It shows the bottom becoming unresolvable before the tops.
Why?
You can deny all you want, but that's what
Why?
Everybody.
Why does that happen?
Everybody, because of the limits of our vision.
No,
when
it's
the
not
angles
because
become
of limits
narrow.
of vision.
Yes.
No.
As they move
No.
towards the vanishing
No,
zone,
you're
there.
talking lemon optics now.
Gary, why can't you just admit that you're wrong? Gary, why can't you just admit when you're wrong? Like, why is it so hard for you to do that?
But hey, people, I used a clip from one of your videos. Did you see that boat before you zoomed in?
Gary,
Let me answer the question. No, we don't proceed till you answer the question. You know what I'm talking about in my video. Did you see that boat before you zoomed in?
Gary, no,
answer
you
the question,
can't see it.
Bebo. You answer the question, or you don't get any questions answered until you answer the question.
I just answered your question. No, when you zoom in, you can't. When you zoom out, you can't see it. That's who cares about
that? So there's something there that couldn't be seen. But when you zoomed in, you could. But when you backed out the zoom, it disappeared again, and it disappeared bottom first.
Gary, I don't understand why you're concerned with zooming out and not being able to see stuff. Like, who cares about that? The point is to zoom in so you can fucking see it.
Who cares about it? That's one of our biggest arguments: is bottoms disappearing because of curve or because of optical limits.
Yeah, when you zoom in,
and I showed you using a clip from your video. Optical limits are what's going on, not curvature.
You didn't prove that. I saw that video.
Yeah, Gary.
Hold on, wait.
Oh,
Gary,
I expect you to say that because that's all you can do.
Gary, you zoom in so you can see what's obstructed. That's the point.
Whoa, so you wait. So when you zoomed in,
what happens when you zoom out? Nobody
when you zoomed in, were you looking through obstruction?
Yes, the water
was it obstructed?
The water,
was it obstructed?
Gary, the water is obstructing things, Gary. That's the point.
Okay, before you zoomed in, you couldn't see the boat. Was it obstructed by water, or was it just the limit of vision?
Gary, nobody's arguing.
No, answer the question. It's not just you. No, you are arguing.
So why is
that boat obstructed by water?
Nobody is arguing about not being able to see things
obstructed by water.
Why is the obstruction only vertical?
I took from your video. Was it obstructed by water?
Okay. So your argument is that it's not obstructed by water when we're zoomed out. Is that your argument?
Yes, that's why you zoomed in and you could see it.
Why does the obstruction only work on the bottom? Why not the top? Why not the sides?
Because the bottom is touching the surface. It's the closest thing to the surface. The surface is always what the horizon is based on.
Okay, so when we zoom in,
hold
on.
Oh fuck! What a bunch of shit.
So what? Hold on.
No,
so when you're just saying when we zoom in, then it gets obstructed. So you're saying when we zoom in, then it gets obstructed. Is that your argument?
Why would I say something stupid like that?
I don't know. That's what you're implying.
No, what I said was you told me, you told everybody on here, you couldn't see that boat that was in my video before you zoomed in, right?
No, you can't. That's the point of zooming in.
Was it obstructed? Answer the question. No, I'm not going to be the only one answering questions. Was that boat visible? No. You said it wasn't visible. Why?
Yeah, that's the point is to zoom in to see if it's obstructed, Gary. That's the whole point.
And it wasn't obstructed. It wasn't obstructed, but you couldn't see it before you zoomed in. So was it obstructed when you backed off the zoom?
What's the point?
Did the water obstruct it when you backed off the zoom?
Gary, we want to see whether or not it's obstructed, right?
Okay, you couldn't see it. You couldn't see it.
Of course not. Gary, we're not arguing that. Gary, we're not arguing that point. You can't fucking see it.
Sure you are. You're trying to avoid the point. You couldn't see the boat. You couldn't see the boat.
Why would I not want to see it, Gary? Why would I not want to zoom in?
Why couldn't you see the boat?
Because it's too far away for my eyes to see. So I use
but it wasn't obstructed, right? It wasn't obstructed by anything, right?
Hold on.
The angles to it were just too narrow. The angular size
Sorry,
and
stop
the angles
talking.
to it at the center frame of your vision was just too narrow, right?
Gary, can I?
So
try
the
to
That's why
point,
you
step in
couldn't
here?
see
Or
it,
if his wife-
right?
what's
Am
the
I right
point?
or not?
I don't understand your point because what you're saying is that when we're not zoomed in, we can't see it. Therefore, it's not obstructed.
No, it wasn't
Is
obstructed
that
because
what you're
when you
trying to
zoomed in,
say?
it was there.
No
It
shit,
wasn't
Gary.
obstructed when you zoomed in;
No
it was
shit.
there.
That's not
No shit, and
obstructed.
it's still
If it
Hold
was
on, guys.
obstructed,
Yo,
if it was
Hold on,
obstructed, you
NASA.
wouldn't be able to zoom in and
NASA,
find it.
wait.
That's the whole
Wait,
point.
Earth is live. And Gary,
I'm
have a
sorry.
good going here. Let's stay out. Gary, continue. Earth is live, and Gary.
So
okay. Let me make my
when I'm
statement here and clarify everything I'm saying so B-Ball doesn't mangle it, because that's what he likes to do. Okay, B-Ball. That's a clip from B-Ball's clip of one of those boats in my last video. That's one of his clips.
No, it's not. That's not even my. Those are not
see.
even my images. Just to let you know.
You took
They're
them where
actually
you
not
got
my
them
images.
somewhere. Where did you get them? They're in Hawaii, right? You've always claimed they were yours before.
No.
So how do you know that boat wasn't visible? You made the claim. How do you know that boat wasn't visible before you zoomed in? How do you know that boat wasn't visible before you zoomed in if that wasn't your video?
How do I know? Okay, hold on. How do I know the boat
You just said it wasn't your video.
visible when no, it wasn't. But how do I know?
So was it your video? You just said it wasn't your video.
Gary, you gotta stop. Gary, you gotta stop.
Got it. You gotta stop. Catch yourself. Be self-aware. Got it. Be self-aware of what you're doing. You asking me a question when he's attempting to answer you. You interrupt him. You gotta let him have it, bro. Got it. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? You gotta relax, bro.
I get interrupted just as much. But he wants
You're not. You today. You on Earth is live now. Today, you are the one interrupting Earth. You are asking a question, and you are not allowing him to answer because you add more and you keep interrupting him. Are you gonna straight up your act?
Okay, skip the lecture. Skip the lecture. Just get up. Let him say what he's gonna say. I'll be quiet.
All right. So are you? So your claim is that when I wasn't zoomed in, I didn't know whether or not the boat was obstructed. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying what you said. You said you couldn't see the boat before you zoomed in.
Okay.
That's my claim.
All right.
That's what you said.
All right.
Based on what you said.
So I couldn't see the boat. All right. So
Brilliant.
I couldn't see the boat with my naked eye, right?
That's what you claim.
We're just talking about this boat. We're just talking about a boat, which I'm going to clarify. Those images you're using with the boat, those are not mine. Just to clarify,
you will know that you couldn't.
They're not mine.
Then you got to answer the question I was trying to ask you. How do you know you couldn't see the bottom if it wasn't your video before you zoomed in? How do you know that?
Because Gary, because I have examples of this. Because I have examples of the same thing of buildings. Okay. When I'm zoomed out,
that one. I'll let you get away with that one.
When I'm zoomed out, right?
Yes.
And if I can't see it with my naked eye, why would I want to be like, oh shit, I don't know whether it's obstructed or not. Let me zoom in to see whether or not it's obstructed. So I zoom in, right? There you go. It's still obstructed when it's zoomed in.
That boat was not obstructed when you zoomed in. That boat was fully visible.
So you're
the one
saying
that's in my video is a clip from you.
So so you're saying when I'm not zoomed in, it's not obstructed?
No, it was just not visible because it was unresolvable because of the angles. It was too far for your eyes.
So that's the point of zooming in, so I can see whether or not it's obstructed.
No, that actually isn't the point, but it did prove that point. It wasn't obstructed. It wasn't obstructed by anything. There was no water between the boat and the camera. That's why when you zoomed in, you could still see it. You could see the boat. But when it backed off the zoom, you could literally see the bottom becoming unresolvable before the top.
So once again,
it blended in with the horizon line. Rayleigh criterion.
You're talking about your video, your low quality image that you screen recorded.
Well, they can go watch your video, and it's the same thing.
You really can't see anything.
You can call it low quality all you want, but you go watch your video, and that's what you see.
So what's okay? So you ultimately
played that video on his channel before, and everybody got kind of silent.
Okay. So ultimately, it's you think that because we're not zoomed in and we can't see it, that we think it's over the curve. Is that what you think? And then zooming in brought it back.
You would have to, yeah, you would call that in your model, yes.
So we zoomed in and it brought it back from over. Is that what you're saying?
No, it didn't bring it back from over anything.
Clarify
stupid.
your position.
No, it didn't bring it back over from anything. It magnified what was in the angle that your eye couldn't see. You increase the focal length, which decreased your field of view, which magnifies the image in your screen.
Yep. Yet we zoomed in, and I see, and I'm gonna refer to my images. Yet I zoom in, and I still can't see things that are obstructed.
You saw okay because they're farther for the angle. You can only go so far within an angle. Yes.
Things that are obstructed in my images
you're missing the whole point because you don't want to see. That boat that I took a clip from your video was not obstructed and became unresolvable when you backed off the zoom. You couldn't see it before you zoomed in. You would call that obstruction. Everywhere else under the sun, in any other chat, you'll call that obstruction. Wonder if you only had wonder if you didn't have a P900 and you had like a little a 40 zoom and you only picked up half the boat. Then you would say, oh, where's the bottom half? That's what you guys would do.
Well, basically, to test their claim, Mr. Wabanga, that...
Hold on, Lemon. Wait, Lemon. Yes, we zoom in, and it's still obstructed, Gary.
Okay, so you got to test the claim.
Also, there are things... hold on, wait, Lemon, wait, I'm not finished. Also, there are things in my images that are closer to me that are also obstructed.
They're obstructed? Or you just can't resolve them?
Not see them. No, they are
obstructed. That's not obstructed. That's just not being able to resolve them.
Okay.
So why is it
like that boat in that boat in the video? You have
hold on.
P900.
Why is it? No, wait, Gary, stop. Okay, so why is it that I can resolve?
I'm going to finish this point because I got to express it. Otherwise, you'll overlook it again and you'll get bypassed. If you had a P900, you zoomed in on the boat, you could resolve the boat. You couldn't see it before you zoomed in at all. When you backed off the zoom, you could see it literally disappearing bottom first before the top. Now, let's say that same boat. Let's say you didn't have a P900 and you had just some 30 or 40 zoom. You would have zoomed in and it would have started popping up from the top, but you wouldn't see the bottom. And you would sit there and say, oh my God, look, it's behind the curve. That's what you guys do.
So you're basically saying exactly what Stingray was saying, that when we zoom in, things start to pop up over the curve.
No, they don't pop up over the curve. They pop up from center frame, from the vanishing zone, the limits of your eyes at the vanishing zone. They pop up. That's why when you zoom in and zoom out, you literally can watch things popping up top first, and then
I think you are afraid because when Bibo was going to tell you how it works, you just interrupted him with your same script, Gary. I think he's afraid what you are. It is. You are very afraid to let Bibo talk because when he was going to tell you how things work and how in the actual globe model works and the actual globe model, how it works, then you had to do your script and just blabble all over what he was saying. Gary, venga. One more time, can I ask you, can you straight up your act and allow the other person to finish what they're saying before you continue spewing your script? Please. Go ahead, Earth is live. You can continue.
So basically what Gary is saying is that when we zoom in on objects, they will automatically appear from over the curve. Basically what Stingray was saying earlier. And we all know that that's not true. Right. When I took my images, I even have images where I'm not all the way zoomed in, and you can still see the obstruction. So nothing I do, zooming in, zooming out, is going to change that obstruction.
But
go ahead, Gary.
But Earth is live. Wouldn't you need to test that assumption though with different lenses of different size? I mean, the P900 has what, a 2-inch lens? Wouldn't you need to test that assumption by zooming in with a 1-foot lens, a 2-foot lens, a 6-foot lens? Wouldn't you need to test that to see if the horizon moves out beyond the object first? Otherwise, you're making kind of a specious claim, aren't you?
No.
I don't have
well, basically, we're saying that it's some sort of zoom artifact of some sort and something optical. So you'd have to test that with different lenses of different sizes to see if the horizon moves out.
You mean like my phone camera and the P900? Because the images I have with my auto level are actually from my phone.
Okay, so we'd have to have different lenses with different zoom Earth is life. Otherwise, your claim is
Hold
kind
on,
of
wait. So the images I have with the auto level are from my phone. The images where there's no auto level, when there's no crosshairs, those are from a P900.
So we need to see if the horizon moves out as some sort of visual artifact with different lenses and different zoom.
So you have two different lenses, right? And you have the same amount of obstruction.
The lens, the focal length, makes no difference to what is occluded. It cannot change anything about it. The only thing that focal length changes is field of view. And mostly, lenses use what you call equivalent.
Gary has to mute because he's hot mic in here.
All right.
I never got to finish that. I never got to reply to Earth is Life.
I think Josh is going now.
He said I basically said that. This is what he said. He said I'm basically claiming that we can zoom things back up from over a curve, and I never said anything about a damn curve. He made that up. He strawmanned it. I'm saying you can zoom things in that you couldn't see with your natural eye by lengthening your focal length, which decreases your field of view, which magnifies the image and the available pixels you have.
Yeah.
Well,
which is what you just were saying and agreeing with me.
No.
Well, Earth is Life, it is kind of troubling that you're only willing to use language that is applicable to your side. You know that we don't believe in an Earth curve, and you know that we don't believe anything pops up over the Earth curve as stated. You know that Gary is talking about a zone of vision that things are popping out of. So at least to show acknowledgement of what he's saying from his perspective and his thought process, why don't you use some of his language instead of trying to bring it back towards your bald rhetoric as if we believe that something's popping up over an obstruction? That's a little off.
Because you're making up shit,
Because basically that's what he's saying.
So yeah, Gary, you're right. We don't need to increase focal length at all. We can just make the pixel smaller, and it will be just the same. You will see the shape, you will see the obstruction, you will not see what's not there.
There will be a limit to how much light can be focused on the pixel, Chikey. Pixels are not these magical things that you're implying where they can focus any amount of light without a horizon forming. You're off about
they
that.
are.
Lemon, have a look at my stream right now. I've got something that there's two aspects here, and I'm going to make a claim about, and you tell me whether I'm correct or not. Now, in this image, we've got a container ship going behind another container ship. One seems to have the horizon behind it. One seems to have the horizon in front of it. Now, all I can say with certainty is two things in this image are a little bit weird. One is, given the laws of perspective and parallel lines, the bottom of one ship should not diverge in a straight line to a vanishing point across a flat surface to the bottom of another. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, I don't care what we call it, I call it physical water. Physical water is between me and the bottom of the hull of that second vessel. Do you disagree with any of those 2 points?
Yeah, premise one, you're saying that something's dipping down below something else. We don't have that interpretation, sir. Using our language, nothing dipped below anything. There was just a zone of smushing, compression, and convergence that your eye interpreted as something going below something else because of the inability to interpret the visual angle. Your first premise is off totally from the flat Earth perspective because we're not saying anything is actually going physically below anything else.
Okay, so let's focus on that first one then, Lemon. We'll focus on the first one. So you're actually saying that this vessel behind, you're watching my stream, by the way, right?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. So you're saying this vessel isn't actually behind water at all. It's actually high up. And as we would expect on a flat Earth, it's just sunk down and apparently behind water because of smushing, right?
Compression, if you want to use a fancy term or whatever. Smushing in common everyday colloquial parlance.
I've got it. So with this smushing compression, what independent variable would I wiggle to alter the magnitude of this smushing?
To alter it, you'd have to get up closer or further from the surface. The only independent variable you could change is your height off the surface after you establish that the surface is flat and level with no physical obstruction between you and the other thing by some sort of laser or some sort of microwave transmission or something else. You have to first establish that it's flat and level, no obstruction physically there from you to the other thing, and then demonstrate compression visually by changing your elevation. That's all you can do.
Okay.
So changing the elevation. Can I say one thing to Lemon? Okay. On the same picture, if you would go up in elevation, what would happen, because it's a parallax effect, you're closer to the first ship by quite a bit, and it's higher than the observer, right? So if you moved up in elevation, what would happen in your field of view is that front ship would drop down in your field of view, the back ship would go up in your field of view, and the horizon would be behind it, the second ship. You would see the second ship fully, that it would be higher in your field of view than the first ship, and the horizon beyond it slanting up towards eye level because the Earth is flat.
But do you find?
That's a Earth proof.
Horizon's at eye level.
That's a globe proof. Going up in altitude, you see further. Is a proof of the globe, you moron.
The horizon is always just below eye level, but virtually indistinguishable with your natural eye.
The problem with what you say, paid NASA shill, is the globe would drop. The horizon appears to ramp up toward the level of the eyes, which is more consistent with a flat surface.
No.
Not a ball.
No, you go up in altitude, you see further.
You guys
can see further on both. So, paid. What you're saying isn't quite conclusive. Over a flat surface, it would continue to ramp.
No.
I think B-Ball was trying to get in.
We have lost the stream because Pain as a Shield decided just to ask a random question and then they engage, and therefore we have lost the awesome screen share that we had going on. Thanks, NASA Shield.
Well, NASA shill, I get what you're saying, but we have a different interpretation of the same data. So let's talk about which interpretation is consistent. Paid NASA shill, you're talking about seeing further over a ball. You can see that over a flat surface too. Over a flat surface, it's from opening up the angle. Over a ball, which would drop down, by the way, it's because you have a line of sight that is going tangent to the ball further out and downward. So we need to talk about the consistent interpretations here, gentlemen, and the globe is not as consistent as the flat stuff as far as I can tell.
You should not see any further on a flat surface if you go up in height. It does not work that way, Lemon.
Really quick. So I put two images in the Daily Boom chat. One is zoomed out, one is zoomed in. Gary, I want you to take a look at those images and tell me which one has more obstruction. Or was there more obstruction when I zoomed in?
Earth is life. Could you please use the language that we're using to show that you're coming from our thought process, at least, even if you don't agree with us? More compression would be more apropos from a flat Earth perspective, since it's visual compression over a flat surface.
But I don't see,
physical
the thing is,
obstruction.
I don't see any. There's no compression going on. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's why it works.
If there was compression down towards the water, I would see some of those windows compressed together, and I don't see that in the second image.
Yes, I think one of the problems, Lemon, is you're using compression, we're using occlusion. Compression has a telltale sign of non-uniformly altering the scale of detail. And when I say non-uniformly, I would say something that is apparently a 1:1 aspect becomes a 1.2 by 1 aspect, as in it's squishing. We do not see that. What we see is not attributable to compression. We actually see occlusion. We see liquid, or water in this case, in front of something else. That you can call compression, but it's actually just water in the front of it. But the most disturbing fact about all of this is that fucking thing in the distance dropped at the same rate as the curvature of the Earth. That's coincidental like a motherfucker, right?
Well, go ahead, Lemon, answering, and then I got a quick question for you.
Laser has to hit the hump, Stingray, for your claim to be valid. You'd have to hit the obstruction with something traveling straight and true. You haven't demonstrated that. You've shown questionable reasoning where you assume that the only thing that can explain this consistently is your hump model. You need to prove it with the laser hitting the hump. Otherwise, no ball. What were you saying?
Yeah, my question is not gonna. It's gonna be slightly different, but it's a quick one. Perspective is asking you. Shout out to Ranty. Can you? Do you know what is? He got 3 terms, and you tell me if you know about them. Crumpling, squeeging, and smudging. You know what?
I guess we'd have to go to the dictionary to see what these commonly used everyday English terms mean. These terms are so esoteric and foreign to the common sense everyday, English speaker. They're like foreign language gobbledygook, I guess. I guess we'd have to go to a dictionary to figure out what they mean.
Thank you so much. Shout out to Ranty.
Lemon, I have an image. I'll post it now. You see these 2 images?
I see Brian Mabbett's stream live. I don't see yours.
In the Daily Boom Uncensored, he's not sharing.
I posted the image.
Uh-huh. It looks like the moon.
Yeah. Same focal length, different pixel size.
So will that process continue infinitely into any amount of zoom or pixel size? Eventually, won't it just be read as an unresolvable gray square? The answer to that, obviously, Chaiki, is yes.
Well, obviously, you can see I'm far beyond my possible resolution, even on the right side. But if I had a big enough telescope, it wouldn't make a difference. You will see the same, even more detail in the left one than the right one.
The main thing, Chaiki, is the viewing angle. For your pixels to interpret a 2D image that's resolvable, there needs to be a wide enough viewing angle between the pixels. The pixels that you need to focus on for why the horizon forms, Chaiki, or the angle that you need to focus on for that, is the angle between the top half of vision and the bottom half of vision relative to the position of the eyes above the limiting surface, aka the eye level. So when that angle is very narrow, like toward the level of the eyes, no resolution and nothing but a horizon is interpreted. If you're high enough, like with the moon, and you have a high enough angle, then you can interpret a 2D image and your image becomes resolvable beyond the horizon if the object is high enough above the surface with a wide enough angle.
But what if the only thing in my zone of vision is the object I'm looking on? I don't see the sky, I don't see the land, I only see the object. What then?
And you have a blind spot in the middle because the angle pairings in your visual scene are not symmetrical. You're close to the ground, and 100 miles from your eye, if you're 6 feet off the ground, all of that information is compressed into a 6-foot zone that bottoms out. While in the top half of your vision, 100 miles away from your eye, your visual zone has expanded exponentially outward, and you can handle 400, 500 miles of visual information in the top part of your visual scene, while in the bottom, it is bottomed out at 6 feet from 3 miles onward. And so the eye interprets that as a line and a blind spot in the middle where nothing is symmetrically paired, no optical information is resolved in any sort of way. It's just a blind spot because of the asymmetrical pairing of the top and bottom half of your vision, where the bottom half compresses very quickly and the top half expands exponentially with no barrier in the way.
There's no barrier anyway. You will not see but sky beyond it, whether it's at the bottom or the top. So it extends equally on both, right? So I'm talking. Don't make a sophisticated word salad. Just answer. All that in my vision is the object, nothing else.
Just because you don't understand the concept, Chaiki, doesn't make it word salad. If you don't understand the concept, then let's reason together. Chaiki, obviously, the bottom half of your vision is compressing if you're only 6 feet off of the surface. The top half is obviously expanding exponentially. That's not word salad, Chaiki. That's just common sense.
I don't see the surface. That's a common missense. Nonsense.
But
how does what I don't see come into my zone of vision?
Chaiki, obviously you're not looking where you can see the surface in your field of view. but your eyes are still at a certain level above the ground. And
So what?
everything, as long as it is going parallel to the ground, you will still have the same relationships where everything, the parallel lines, will converge toward the level of the eyes, wherever it is, whether you're looking off randomly at the moon into space and or whether you're looking out over the surface. The rules will still apply, Chaiki, because everything is still going parallel to the surface, including the moon.
How does my proximity to the Earth changes anything? I don't know. I don't need to
your
know
eye
how
level,
much.
Chaiki. Your eye level is
Lemon,
determined by your height
I
above
was
the surface.
talking. I don't know, and I don't need to know how far I am from the Earth. I have no idea.
But Chaiki, that will
I'm
determine the
floating in
visual
the air.
behavior of parallel objects. As long as the moon is staying at the same elevation, like the ceiling of the hallway, parallel lines will converge toward the eye level of the observer, including the moon, as long as it's parallel. The behavior would still apply based off of whatever your eye level is. It will ramp down toward where your eye level is off of the surface. It's the same thing.
Can you tell from these images which part of the moon was above me and which was below me?
Obviously, the moon is above us at all times. It always appears to descend.
Which part
it
of
never
the moon?
appears. Well, sometimes it does appear to ascend. That is true. But most people assume that the moon is above them. It always has this sort of ramping down behavior as if it is above you.
Listen carefully. Which part was higher above me in those pictures? Can you tell?
One would assume the top half. If it's descending and the top half is descending slower than the bottom half, one would assume that the top half of the moon is higher. That's just logic.
No, that's your logic, because I tend to align my moon.
Chaiki, this is the part where I get down past the bullshit. You know full well that the moon is above the observer, so I don't know what you're trying to establish here. You're just frustrating me.
Observer, Lemon. However, one part of it will be lower, closer to the ground, and one will be above it. And you, according to you, should be able to tell me.
If I had to power past whatever you were saying, what's the main point that you're trying to establish here? This is frustrating.
That you're talking bullshit, Lemon. That's my
okay. So the ultimate point of what you're saying is that it's BS, but you don't have a logical refutation. You're just like Druss. It's just the same questionable logic. You can't address the claim. You try to use oily, slimy tactics to try to dismiss the person rather than deal with their claim. Why do I even engage with you?
Really? Because I asked you to make a logical and reason to tell me how would you tell from the picture which part is it lower at my vision and which part is higher than at my vision, because obviously you can tell them.
How dare you waste Lemon Bird's time like that, Shai?
However, when it comes to practicality, you can't tell me which part was lower at the sky and which was higher at the sky.
Jose, can you translate everything he just said for us so we understand what he said?
Lemon Bird, you are full of shit and you are talking crap, pretty much.
The only person who's trying to logically engage with this material is me, gentlemen. You guys are using slimy tactics, ad hom, trying to dismiss the person to avoid having to address their claims. It's just sad.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
I'm going to try, if I may, to
Chaikis just understand.
Hold on, Stingray.
Go ahead.
To address Lemon's claims here. So, Lemon, if you click on my screen share.
All right, I'm going to share that for YouTube too.
Yeah. So, Lemon, I've got a camera here. There's no difference in this camera and this field of view in a 3D environment as there is in real life. I've actually got a camera, a Sony A7 at the side of me that I could use as well. I just haven't got the distance at the moment to do this with. And this camera is looking at a red block. I don't know whether you can see it here. Now, this red block is a 1 meter by 1 meter red block. It is 100 meters away. It takes up 5.725 degrees of vertical and horizontal vision. Quite easy to figure that out, right? Now, let's say I have a 20 megapixel sensor. It's fair to say, on a camera attached to a lens, it's fair to say that I'm going to get a lot of pixels. Let's just stick an arbitrary number there, 50. I'm going to have 50 pixels high recorded to the imaging sensor. Now, in moving both of these closer to the ground, is there any way
that I can get rid of this from the bottom up and change the angular size of it by doing nothing but elevation. How does that work?
You'd have to center the eyes below the midpoint of the object. If that object is 10 feet, Druss, you'd have to center the eyes at like 2 feet low to the object and take it away for an observer that's 2 feet basically below the midline of the object. That's what you'd have to do. And,
please, Lemon, I'm not Druss.
with the compressors away.
I'm not Druss, Lemon. Please, I'm not Druss.
I apologize, sir. Stingray, I apologize.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Stingray,
so anyway,
Stingray.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that for you, but I've got an issue here, and the issue I'll show you the issue because the issue is quite simple. If I track this to my little helper object here, not the plane, the empty. There we go. So now I've got a camera that's looking at this. The weird thing is, though, no matter whether I look the camera up or look it all the way down, that thing there, due to the laws of perspective and angular resolution, does not change its 5.725 degrees. It doesn't alter because the distance to it remains the same. So there is no way for me to change the angular size of that by just looking up, looking down. Another thing
Stingray, we have to establish the proper conditions. Number one, you have to put that object on the surface, number one. Number two, you have to put the observer at 2 feet off of the surface, number two. Number three, you have to take the object away from you, and then you would tend to see the thing vanish bottom up once you take it away from you with an observer 2 feet off the ground, the object sticking off of the ground and being taken away from the observer below, with the observer 2 feet below basically the midline of the object. Then you would tend to see it disappear bottom first.
Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to an extreme here. I'm going to place the observer in the ground, yeah, at 0. So this actually means the center line of their eye, of this camera lens, is intersecting the damn floor here. Terrible.
I just said 2 feet off of the surface. That way you can establish that the surface is ramping up toward the object, which is how we establish that we're above a surface with the ramping up toward the level of the eyes.
Okay, so 2 feet is about 0.6 meters?
Sure, below the midline of the object as you take the object away from the observer.
Right, so the interesting thing now is I've got this object on this thing, right, awesome. And I am actually looking below it, yeah? So I'm not looking at the object, I'm looking slightly below. That would be looking at the center of the object. I'm looking slightly below. And I've got this now, and I can move it close or far away. That's a clipping plane, by the way. I'll fix that in a second. But how is the angular size of this now going to change? If it takes up 20 pixels... it's still, the distance hasn't changed. So the
angular size would compress. I mean, angles of vision compress towards some sort of central point. And that central point or a plane appears to be the level of the eyes, where most, if not all of the angles are made if you're off of a surface. It would be toward the central plane of vision.
So what you're saying is this is fundamentally missing something right here. This visualization, this 2 foot away and this block that we can move around. I'll actually increase the clipping distance on this. This is a 3D graphics issue. So, but it's missing some fundamental issue that you've identified that is not accounted for.
Life is Short addressed it, and Ray250 has addressed it. They basically say that your angles of vision are made from the level of the eyes up, down, left, and right in general. And so everything appears to reduce in angular size by compressing toward the vanishing point of the eyes or the vanishing plane of the eyes. And if the object is way taller than the symmetrical zone of 6 feet above and below the level of the eyes off of the surface, if you're 6 feet off the surface, it will tend to set behind a horizon that forms in the foreground, and the horizon in the foreground forms based off of your height above the surface.
Right, cool. That's amazing rhetoric, and it's a story. That's all that is.
It's a story to help you experiment properly and go forward and find the solution. It's a very important story that actually will help you solve the problem.
All right. Yes, it's a very important story to help me plan this out. But I'm still stuck at point number 1. And that's, if this distance, the angular size is derived from the physical size of the object and the distance of the object. We get that due to perspective, and it's easy to work out. We can predict it 100% of the time, all of the time. Now, but you're telling me there's a phenomenon where this object can stay at the same distance but change its angular size. And I'm saying, wow, no one knows about this. Cameras have been designed without it. Everything's been designed without it. But we're missing this amazing magical thing. And all I'm wanting to know now is, how do I discover it? What is it related to? And how do we then demonstrate it?
You're showing the principles right there in your photo. The surface appears to ramp upward, while the object that's sticking out of said surface appears to tower above the surface that's ramping up toward the level of the eyes in the back. Jose, hot mic.
Yeah, hot mic.
Oh, sorry.
So basically, if you have the surface sticking up out of the same ramping surface, it will appear to compress into said surface and appear to diminish in size all the way to the point where it will merge with the surface and disappear. So objects based off of their height above the surface will merge into said surface and become unresolvable, aka come toward a horizon line. That's all of the principles there.
So no, I get it. So I send this way back now, and I'll have to check at what angular size it is now. But let's say all the way back here. We can see that I can zoom in on the camera. There we go. Object's still there. The object now is, oh my God, math. Wait a minute. So it's 500 meters. So now the angular size, and again, this is approximate. The angular size now is bloody 1/10 of what it was. So it's still sat on top of the surface because there's nothing in between me and the camera. And now its fixed angular size is based again off the distance to the camera. And no matter what I do with this camera, whether I raise it in elevation, the angular size doesn't actually change because the distance doesn't change. So again, what phenomenon am I missing to make this amazing angular change, even though the distance doesn't change? Because this is unbeknown to modern science, and I'm fascinated.
Extend the surface, and eventually it will merge into said surface and approach a horizon line. Extend the surface out, bring the object further out, and eventually it will merge into the surface, just like it looks like it's doing there, and approach a horizon line. There you go.
So the interesting thing here is the angular size of this has not changed. Didn't change one bit.
It's gotten smaller. What are you talking about?
No.
When an object changes in angular size, it gets smaller. It looks like it got smaller. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, so if you let me finish, I'll explain. So the angular size of that object did not change.
It got smaller. What are you talking about?
Lemon, please. One of us knows what we're talking about.
Another one of us is open-minded enough to find the answer, so don't play that shit with me. But what are you saying?
Thank you. So the angular size of this object did not change at all. The only thing that changed was the field of view of the camera, not actually even the focal length, because focal length is the same, but I changed the field of view by zooming outwards. I'm zooming in. All I'm doing is zooming into degrees. That's all I'm doing. This now is 1 degree. It is still 1 degree here. It's just that my vision is almost 260 degrees here, whereas here it's about 10 degrees. So the degrees did not change, and that's how we figure out how big something should be due to perspective. So I ask you again, what phenomenon am I missing whereby when I zoom in, this should be like that into the ground? Because I ain't getting it yet.
It looked like it merged into the surface when you took the camera away from the block. It looked like it was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and merging into the surface.
So that there you think is merging into the surface?
Obviously, yes.
Right. So what if I were to tell you that all I did was open the field of view and not one thing changed other than apparent on the 2D plane of things, it got smaller. This surface did not move upwards at all. It stayed the same. Geometrically, it stayed the same. And I can still see every single bit of that red block. It's just really tiny. Do you not believe that to be the case then, I take it?
We just have a different interpretation of it. Basically, things are merging into the surface, coming toward a horizon line over a flat plane. You appear to be demonstrating the same thing here. You just have a different interpretation. If you take that far enough away from the thing, it will merge with the surface, become unresolvable, aka become a horizon line.
So
all the principles are there.
We agree on this principle. If I take that far enough away and I do not change my focal length, thus changing my field of view, that it will disappear and become unresolvable dependent on the sensory equipment, so a pixel size and the degrees that that can interpret. Absolutely fucking agree with you. But at no time in that entire process there before it's unresolvable did the fucking ground move up and cover half of it. And I'm saying, when is that supposed to happen and how do I make it happen?
Obviously, make your block higher, make your block bigger, and it will appear to set bottom first. And it will become even more apparent when you have a mountain that extends left and right and up 10 times as high as that block that you're talking about.
So
the closer you are to the surface, the more likely it will be to disappear bottom first early.
Yeah, no, I got you. So what you're saying is, if this block was a mountain that's now well off in the distance, and it is, I shouldn't, you know, based on moving it away and moving it forward, I shouldn't be able to see the bottom of it. But again, I clearly can, because there's nothing in between me and the bottom, and the angular size is based on the distance, nothing else. So how do I get it to reduce in angular size with a bias to the fucking bottom without moving something up in front of it?
Obviously, you're too close to the surface, and the optical information is eventually dropped.
It's wizardry.
Right. A totally different way of looking at it.
So again, I'll go to my first example. How about I do something fantastical? I put this camera into the surface so that the eye is or the camera lens is intersecting the surface at a height of 0, meaning exactly half the lens is underneath the ground, exactly half the lens is the top.
Stingray, you need the visual cue that you're above the surface, namely the ramping up toward the level of the eyes. Without that cue, you don't even know if you're above the surface or not. So you need to at least be like a foot off the ground with the ground ramping up toward the object.
There we go. So I am now, wait a minute, 10. I'm now 1 centimeter above the ground. Yeah, 1 centimeter above the ground. I can still see the whole of this fucking block because nothing sits in between this camera and that fucking block that's miles away now and the size of a mountain. Not one thing. I can still see the bottom of it. I can still see the top of it. It is the expected angular size due to perspective reduction based on distance. And
take the block further away, Druss.
Whoa, calm down, Lemon.
Why don't you just demonstrate the concept?
Dross again.
No, right.
Oh, shit.
So can you tell me what distance? Thank you, Lemon. Can you tell me what distance to put this? Because to be honest, I could put it at
all the way to where it disappears. Keep going, keep going. Up, shrinking into the surface, shrinking into the surface, shrinking into the surface. Oh, it disappears. There you go.
Brilliant. It hasn't disappeared, Lemon, because if I zoom in, I can still see the whole fucking thing because the degrees is the same and nothing sits in between me and the object.
But you don't have limitless zoom. You can only zoom in so much, and even when you get to the limit of the optic, a horizon line would still form with unresolvable angles at the horizon line level. So the principles are still there. You're just using questionable software and a questionable interpretation to try to make your case, but you're forgetting about how cameras and the eyes actually interpret the image. They don't interpret it quite this way.
Camera. So what we're seeing is this. That's what we see. Except now this is below the fucking flat land that I've got. And that, to me, is an issue.
And that's obviously because the pixel will be flooded by light from one part of vision or the other, the upper or the lower half, and just have to assign a value. Eventually, the light and color in the lower half of vision will overwhelm the pixel field, sir, in your camera. It will just assign it to the lower visual field, and you'll have a horizon line anyway, be it the camera or the eye. The same principles apply. Once the eye is overwhelmed by visual information from a visual zone, it reads nothing but a line. Once the camera is overwhelmed by light from a visual zone, it reads nothing but one pixel of information that it assigns to one value or the other, assigns a line, and you have a horizon anyway. Either way, it's the same principle.
Right, brilliant. That is fantastic, Lemon, and I'm glad you said that. So you're
Life is Short goes over this in his video.
Okay, brilliant. So you're saying that there is a difference between the top of the lens and the bottom, correct? Or no
Based
difference?
off of looking down the hallway, Things above the level of the eyes ramp down, things below ramp up. This gives you at least 2 zones of vision.
Just really quickly, that's nothing to do with the lens, that's perspective. So are you saying...
That's the same thing with the lens, Dress, because the angles are going to be made relative to the sensor. And the sensor is at a particular level and can only take light at a certain angle based off of its position above a limiting surface, aka the eye level, the camera level, or whatever you're talking about.
I think he's trolling you when he calls you Dross.
I know he is.
It's Habit, Stingray. I'm just going to call you Person, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah, call me Person. So I should be able to turn this camera upside down and fucking shit change, but it doesn't. Now, the issue that I've got, Lemon, is that every single prediction that you make here, we cannot demonstrate. We can't demonstrate on a flat surface and a flat table. We can't, unless you come up with some contrivance about angular size reduction, which we know is a thing, but that's not what's happening. We're losing half the fucking object. But more importantly, we're losing half the object due to an unknown phenomenon on a flat Earth called perspective divergence. So perspective converges to a vanishing point. What we're actually seeing is fucking divergence. It's amazing on this flat Earth that you've got. Divergence shouldn't exist. So clearly there's something wrong here, except I'm going to show you one other file. And I'm pretty sure you've seen this before, but I added a few things. I decided to think, well, what happens with clouds? If clouds are like, 1,000 foot high or 2,500 foot high, we see them at the horizon, much like Lemon describes. Yeah, the top converges down and all that kind of stuff, and it's clearly there in reality. So what I decided to do is plot it on a curve to see if that matches reality, and a curve that comports to 1 degree over 69 miles, along with the vessels and boats and everything. And just with that simple 1 degree of curvature over 69 miles, everything fucking works, which is a bit weird, because if we look at the clouds, if we look at these clouds here, this is on a curved Earth. They actually meet the surface. But on a flat Earth, the one on the right, they don't meet the surface in 300 odd miles. They do on a curved Earth, though, which is a bit weird, because this is what I see in reality. I see these boats that diverge amazingly from the laws of perspective on a flat Earth, whereas on a flat Earth, here we go. You see this little speck in between these? This is a boat that's 300 miles away. I can just zoom into it. Do you know where that boat is on a curved Earth? Well below this one. It's actually way down at the bottom of the view, covered and obscured and occluded by water. Water comes in front.
Could I please just drop in something that I think has been missed, if you don't mind? Sorry. And this is directed to Dean, because I think he's the only person in this conversation that'll actually understand what I'm saying. The Rayleigh limit, or the Dawes limit, whichever one you choose to use, when you reach the angular resolution limit for any optical system, whether it's the eye or a camera or telescope, when you reach that angular resolution limit, it doesn't mean that the object disappears. It means that you can no longer discern what shape it is, basically, in layman's terms. It doesn't mean it disappears. You can still see it. And you can see it far beyond the Rayleigh limit or the Dawes limit. It just
the thing that his model is missing is after a certain threshold, nothing beyond that threshold is interpreted. His mathematical model interprets an infinite amount of interpretation of the image from the observer outward. That's not the case. Eventually, one value will be assigned to one rod in the eye, one pixel in the camera, whatever, and beyond that, no more interpretation happens, aka a horizon forms. So that's the key issue that Stingray is missing in his idealized mathematical models that imply infinite amount of interpretation from the eye outward, which isn't the case in real life, where there are limits and constraints to how much resolvability there is in the pixel, in the eye, in the rod, the cone, the brain, whatever.
And is that based on distance, Lemon? Is that
yes, distance off of the surface.
Yeah, awesome. So I invite you to look at a moon set, because a moon set clearly has an object that's a fuck ton further away. Have you ever thought about that?
It's up at a wider angle, Stingray. As the flat earthers have said, it's up at a higher angle and still resolvable. Anything off of the level of the eyes and or off of the surface is at too narrow of an angle and dropped. If it's high enough, like the moon, you can still resolve it, Stingray. And that's expected based off of the vicissitudes of this theoretical model anyway.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about that, though, Lemon, is if I get up high, the moon is below my eye line, and it's a moon set. It is not high in my vision. It's a moon set.
Counter Stingray, you can't even tell what eye level is because your eye level has disappeared. You know how you tell eye level, Stingray? You know how you tell eye level? Yes. A bunch of objects of the same height going away from you in series or in a plane. Anything going away from you in series or a plane below the level of the eyes appears to ramp up. Anything like what appears to be the moon that's above the observer appears to ramp downward. So based off of its behavior, it appears to be above you, even though your eye level has disappeared and you can't really tell what's up, down level, or any way, shape, or form without objects going away from you in series. So your assumption is fallacious without checking with a laser, sir, to make sure that you're staying level, which you haven't done, and nobody has anyway.
Yeah, except I can actually measure that with a MEMS accelerometer coupled with other sensory equipment and get basically a plumb bob and a 90-degree angle and go, fuck me, the center of that moon is below my vision and it's setting behind my horizon and it's obviously a really fucking long way away.
How dare you know using a laser? How dare you know using a laser, Stingray?
Counter Stingray. All I can tell is that you're locally level. You're assuming that you're keeping level from point to observation. That's a tall assumption without, yet again, Stingray, a laser.
Throw level out.
Camera is irrelevant.
I can clearly see buildings behind a horizon, and if I look up, I can see the moon. Clearly, something that is a lot further away than the horizon or the buildings behind the horizon, like in Earth is Life's images. So this assertion that you have that distance is responsible for the lack of information, and let's call it as it is, fucking light. It's not like someone's mailing you a picture with email. It's fucking light. There's no other way to describe it. So that light coming from that moon to my eye that is considerably further away from the fucking buildings that are behind the horizon, which are still further away from the fucking horizon, has no bearing on what you just said, with distance being the thing that's stopping shit getting
Counter Stingray. The light can reach your eye, but it still needs to be interpreted as a 2D image. Is there light being emitted off of bacteria and creepy crawlies that are all around us that are unseen? Most likely, most people would say yes, but it is not interpreted by the eye, even though it is obviously reaching the eye, Stingray. So you've made a critical fallacy in interpreting or assuming that just because the light is there and unobstructed over a flat plane, that it is automatically translated into a 2D image by the eye. That is not the case because of the compressed viewing angle, because you're off the surface at a very limited height, at a very which only affords a very limited angle for light to come into your eye at a very limited angle and still be resolvable.
But we can see germs under a microscope.
For you, Lemon, before I pass it on to someone else. Do you not find it odd that in all the models that I make and the predictions that they can give, and these are predictions, none of them are historical data. I don't think, well, what's fucking reality and I'm going to build that in. I do not do that. I take survey data. So the simple thing of 1 degree over 69 miles, it's enough for me. I can work with that. The same thing that I made that sphere and that sun predicting model and the exact path of the sun through the sky and the terminate. All I needed is that 1 degree over 69 miles and the apparent distance and size of things, and I'm good. And it can make predictions, not based off historical data, real predictions that I can walk outside and verify. Isn't it really odd that all I need to do that is rotate a fucking sphere that's curved 1 degree over 69 miles, and you need to invent all this stuff that is not demonstrable? It's weird.
I gotta say something. Lemon, quickly. Check on my camera. Check. I'm gonna show the progress of my drawing. I got one more character to go, and the writing in the bottom of the drawing. So the drawing. Puppet. We got the two scientists right here, but I'm still missing this. This is a whistle, a lawyer. It's a lawyer whistle right here. And then in the bottom, science matters. So don't be a Muppet. Science matters. It's almost done. It's almost done. It's coming good. I'm happy.
I think you spelled that wrong. It's Mabbett.
Yeah, science Mabbett. Yeah, don't be a Mabbett. Nah, it's good. I'm happy with it. Look at it. Very cartoonish.
Very nice.
Right.
Well, you asked a rhetorical question, so I'll give you a rhetorical answer for the same emotional impact that is similar to what you're talking about. Isn't it funny that Raichi 5 zeros and Life is Short can demonstrate the same visual effect that we see simply by getting close to the surface? So I guess in answer to your rhetorical question that you expect to be answered by saying that your model is by implication the only game in town, I say by implicit rhetorical answer, no, it's not. We're demonstrating the same phenomenon simply by getting close to the surface, be it the wall, the ceiling, or the floor. So based off of what's actually demonstrable, observable, demonstrable science, as opposed to idealized math models where you fit infinite amounts of mathematical information into a pixel instead of reflecting the actual physical conditions of the camera or the eye, where only a certain threshold of visual information is focused onto the pixel, the rod, the corner, whatever, and past that threshold, the horizon forms. I don't know what to tell you. Your model doesn't mimic everyday life in that it implies infinite amounts of mathematical information that can be focused into any pixel mathematically in your program. When in real life conditions, Stingray, there is a threshold beyond which there is no resolvability, aka a horizon. So I don't know what to tell you.
I'm going to do something that no one else has ever done, Lemon. I'm pretty sure I'll be the first. I'm going to fucking assume that everything you just said was true. Every single thing. Then my next question to you is, given all that thing that you've just said has been true, do you not find it entirely coincidental that these models match our reality 100 fucking percent?
Stingray, you gave a rhetorical question. I already gave you a rhetorical answer. Let it be that and quit repeating your freaking rhetorical question. If you want your model to actually represent reality, Stingray, then you're going to need to set a threshold beyond which there is no interpretation of the pixel. Once you do that, whatever you have to do in your idealized math program, you're going to see a horizon form, Stingray. I don't know what else to tell you.
It's not driven by math, Lemon, and it already matches reality 100%. Why would I change anything if it does? And all I had to do was rotate a sphere. That was it. And it works. It's amazing. Simplicity, yeah? Fantastic. Oh,
Stingray, that's an effect. And an effect can have several causes, Stingray. You need to narrow down your cause, the curvature of the Earth, as the only game in town. Otherwise, several causes can have similar effects. Namely, it looks like it's going over a ball, cause 1, and or cause 2, angular resolution limit, diffraction limit, and making sure to assign pixels a certain threshold beyond which no interpreted image is seen as anything else beyond a horizon line. So several causes have several effects, Stingray. Your model being good enough is good enough to demonstrate, maybe part of the effect, but it may not be the only game in town. You're going to need to look into other models. I'm sorry.
No, you got a model? I trust what you say, Lemon, and I have looked into other models. However, I've always come back to a heliocentric spherical Earth that I just have to rotate, and everything works. Now, when you say Raichi made something disappear, again, no one is using the argument that shit doesn't get fucking smaller when you move it away. We can actually even tell you when that will disappear based on the sensory equipment, or, sorry, John, when it actually becomes unresolvable detail-wise but can still be detected. But we can actually tell you that really easy. It's simple to work out. You do not say, hey, look, I can hold a sheet of paper up in the thin fucking side and it's disappeared. That is utterly irrelevant.
That's utterly irrelevant because
a proper equivalence, Lemon, is moving a fucking can away from you on a flat surface and showing me that half of it disappears, but I can still clearly read the fucking label.
Anyway, as you were saying, turning a sheet of paper sideways does not the proof make alone. But just like looking over a chessboard, you have a bunch of squares in the chessboard that, while they're close to the eyes, are resolvable as separate 2D images. But if you extend that chessboard out infinitely, those chessboard blocks appear to merge. And as you know, that 2D chessboard is no different in its representation as 3D objects in our visual sphere. A realistic 3D drawing shows that this is the case, where you can have a drawing that looks so real, so realistic, so 3D, it is indistinguishable from real life, but it's actually on a planar surface. So obviously, by the logical extension, if our eyes interpret the 2D chessboard in no different way than the 3D life that we look out beyond, the 2D chessboard is appearing to merge, converge, and make these squares unresolvable and disappear. In real life, the same thing will happen, aka a horizon will form. Why can't you use these principles in a consistent way to make a consistent conclusion?
I am really going to try and get away from this conversation after this following fucking statement, Lemon. Again, for everybody that's listening, a fucking false equivalence. So the false equivalence, the proper equivalence would be this. Fuck the chessboard. They are the waves. I do not give a shit about the waves. You have an infinite chessboard. You put a fucking 60-foot chess piece on there. You move that fucker away and you show me half of it hidden where I can clearly see the other half on a flat fucking surface, and you've got a point. Until then, it's just made up bullshit.
You like to get the last word, and I'll let you get the last word after I get in this last jab, Stingray. The thing is that 3D chess piece that is sticking up out of the surface, for your eyes' purposes, is no different than the 2D square on that 2D chess surface. No different. It is interpreted by the eye in the same fashion. And since it is interpreted in the same fashion and with more or less the same behavior, we are justified logically in saying the chessboard squares appear to converge, merge, and disappear, and the bottom part of that chessboard, or the whole chess piece itself, will appear to converge, merge, and disappear into a horizon.
Okay. See if you can be honest, Lemon. I'm going to ask you one question.
I'll let you get the last word, otherwise we'll just be doing this all day.
No, I'm going to walk away as well. But I am actually genuinely going to ask you a question and see if you can be honest. So a chess piece is 10 inches high, let's say. What is the height of a chessboard square?
For the eye's purposes, it technically has no height, but it's interpreted as a ramping object that has a certain height by the eye. That's a paradox, but that's the way that the eye represents a planar surface. It appears to have height that it really doesn't technically, since it's low to the ground and at zero, but it appears to ramp up and take on what appears deceptively to the eye, a height.
So in us saying, why do ships disappear in front of a big fucking mound of water, why would you then use the water to argue the point, something that has no elevation height?
Because of the way that the eye represents this stuff, Druss. It is flat and below your eyes, yes, and has no height, but the eye still represents it as if it has height and ramping, just like that 3D chess piece. The principles are there, Druss. The only thing that's lacking is the consistent will to have a consistent interpretation based off of the evidence that's presented to our eyes.
Oh my God. The angular size of a chessboard based on its height when you're moving away is nothing like the vertical height of a ship or a can. Please.
The eye sees no difference between the two representations, Druss.
Yeah, Druss. Yeah, Druss.
Use the ground.
Stingray. Druss Stingray. Dressing Ray, Sting.
What have Dross done to you, Lemon? That he's living on your mind rent free.
He tried to play rhetorical with me by trying to undermine my credibility and participate in the fallacy of you're wrong about something else, therefore you're wrong about this. People are wrong about shit all the time, but if his fallacy as stated is you're wrong about something else, you're wrong about this, well then the fallacy is meaningless. Because that either implies that people have to be right 100% of the time about everything that they say in all subjects, which is an impossibility, or plan B, Druss. You need to focus on the issue at hand and not wax rhetorical and try to undermine my credibility about some other unrelated topic. Otherwise, I'm going to call that out for the slimy, rhetorical, sophist tactic that it is, and a cheap attempt to avoid having to deal with the issue while the horizon forms over the flat surface by trying to 1-2 KO my credibility and say, I don't have to deal with whatever you say. I can just undermine your credibility in a slimy way and avoid dealing with any of your issues. Slimy and dishonest as hell. But what were you saying, Stingus, Ray, sir?
I don't know, Lemon. You seem to have mastered being wrong 100% of the time.
Sting, bro.
Sorry.
The fallacy, Moyak, of you're wrong about something else, therefore you're wrong about this, is apparent. Stick to the issue, gentlemen, and try to address the objective point. And we won't have an issue. Otherwise, the claws are going to come out, and I'm just going to simply savage you. If you go ad hom with me and try to undermine my credibility, the claws are going to come out, and it's going to be bloody.
No.
I searched Google for zone of vision and not much came up, and usually it was simply field of view.
I just wanted to point out that there is a lady present amongst these gentlemen. At least I try to be.
Good times, good times. The idea is to give you guys a place to come in and have fun. I mean, this is good. Not every place, I mean, whatever bias is going on, is still, in not everywhere, Lemon can go and just speak his piece uninterrupted, like, most of the times, and at least I try to step in every once in a while when it goes too crazy. But, yeah, I don't know. It's good. It's fun.
Not sure about that.
It's always fun, man. And
I'm curious, Jose, but why does it have to be us, huh?
Yeah.
Why? Really?
Right. I know what's up, man.
Remember,
I'm curious. I'm wondering if any flat earther can tell me, if you have an observer height of 0, how far away would a 30-meter tall ship need to be before it just starts to disappear bottom up?
Ooh, good one. See, that's a good exercise right there. Lemon, go ahead, man.
I guess it's 30 feet above the level of the eyes. Mathematically, I guess you'd have to treat it like an object that's 30 feet above and below the level of the eyes and take the tangent of 0.02 equal to, 30 feet over the distance to where that zone of vision, that 30-foot zone of vision with the object would disappear down to 0.02. I guess that would be a general mathematical prediction. So I guess tangent of 0.02, solve for tangent of 0.02 equals 30 over x, or 30 divided by the tangent of 0.02, whatever that is.
Where are you getting 0.02 from?
That's the angular resolution limit of the eye. That's what you get when you take 60 degrees of vision up and down from the level of the eyes, left or right for each eye, 60 degrees of vision for each, eyeball or something like that. And then you divide it by, what was it?
Gotta have eyeballs, man. Gotta have the eyeball in there.
Well, basically, there's a limit beyond which your eye can interpret two separate objects as being two separate resolvable objects. It's usually 0.02 degrees of angle, I think they say.
That's why we're not stuck with just eyes, dude.
The camera will have a limit also, because eventually
They will have a limit, but they'll be vastly different, won't they?
It will still form a horizon because too much light will be focused on the pixel for it to differentiate anything else from one zone or the other.
Where is that horizon going to happen with super zoom? 100 times
it will still form in the distance beyond where the light is so focused on the pixel, it cannot pick one color field, the upper part of vision, from another color field, the lower part of vision. Eventually, a horizon will be chosen.
I've just done your chessboard for you, Lemon, just to show you how disingenuous an argument it is. So, if you look at the chessboard right now that I've got on screen,
let me look at it.
It's not an infinite chessboard, but it's certainly a little bit bigger than a chessboard. And yes, look, no one argues that these become unresolvable or indistinguishable.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Might not do this again. Don't do that. Due to angular size. Now, do you think that's disingenuous because we're on about this object moving away? Do you see that this doesn't do what you're saying? There's a false equivalence here in the fact that this is a huge thing that's above this, and when we get down here, we're not on about the floor, we're not on about the waves, we're not on about grass blades, we're on about a huge a huge building or ship actually going away and being occluded, dropping down and being occluded, which is a bit crazy on a flat Earth.
Well, venerable Stingray, sir, let's just reason together. You see stuff converging on that chessboard, and those squares, those 2D squares, are no different than a 3D representation of that object that's sticking up out of the surface. Eventually, stuff is just going to merge and become unresolvable into an unresolvable horizon line. Just looking at those squares, the principles are there.
Yes, except we can calculate that based on distance and height. And it will never, the contention is not that this will not disappear if I move it far enough away. That's a ridiculous thing to say. Everybody knows that is true. Stop saying it. The problem is half of this is going to be still clearly visible, and this surface is going to be occluding it somehow, which is the impossible bit of it.
So Stingray, for your model to be worth a damn, you're going to need to set up a threshold beyond no more representation happens in the distance. You cannot just cram infinite number of pixels in your preferred mathematical model. That is where your mathematical model does not represent reality, where there is a limit to how much light can be focused on the pixel, the rod of the eye, or whatever focusing instrument you're talking about. So that's where your model fails. I'm sorry.
You've been called out, Stingray.
I can do that, but the problem that I've got in reality, I mean, we're generating a new reality here, let's be honest, because what you're saying is, yes, that horizon line can't see beyond it, but we clearly do. A moon set and buildings behind the horizon that are much further away than the horizon, boats that have gone over the horizon where we can still see the pilot houses. So what you've just said does not match reality.
So
even if
I've already addressed that by talking about how it's up at a wider angle where you can differentiate the visual field finally with the moon. When you get closer to the level of the eyes and are closer to the surface, there's too much smushing and there's no resolvability, and it's not interpreted by the camera, the eye, or whatever as a line. So at that point, we're going to have to disagree. If you're just going to keep on restating your premises, I'm just going to have to keep on restating my premises too. And that's it. So we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
Except mine are demonstrable, yours are not. Do you know the difference?
That is deceptive, Stingray. You haven't demonstrated curvature. You have looked through a theodolite, you have looked through a camera and interpreted curvature without actually establishing curvature relative to a straight standard, like a laser, a microwave, or something else. And then when we try to do that, you say, oh, the laser curves, so we can't use that to establish the curvature of the Earth. It's just bogus.
It sounds convincing and he has an accent. I don't know.
Yeah. So the interesting thing there, I'm going to agree with you, Lemon. I'm going to agree with you on one point. I know a lot of people don't, but I'm going to say yes. I don't see curvature. I absolutely don't. I promise you that. I look out and it's as flat as it can be. And even when I'm at the water where we're meant to see, curvature, I don't see it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
I know, right? I'm sorry to all the all the globers or planet Earthers that I like to call them. I don't see curvature. But do you know what I do see? It's this really weird thing. It's called the effect of curvature.
Oh.
So in a prediction, I can tell you when you will start to see something disappearing from the bottom up. Not only that, if you give me its distance, I can tell you what's the highest point on that you will see. And when you go down and you see it on a clear day where a box is still a box and it's not a waving mess of liquid fucking refraction, that it actually, within the tolerances of being true. The one thing that I can never do is, in reality, see flat Earth. I only ever see the effect of curvature, not the effect of flatness.
I see the effects of diffraction limit over a flat surface. So we see something different, and keep in mind that an effect can have several causes. So we're going to need to differentiate between a ball of Earth curve versus diffraction limit over perspective, something optical or whatever over a flat plane.
So my question there is the top half of this boat not affected by diffraction like the bottom half?
The top half and the bottom half are affected, yes.
Equally, correct?
No.
Okay. So what aspect is making one bias towards the other?
The bottom half of your vision is trying to expand ever outward like a pie slice going from the center outward. But there's a problem. There's a surface in the way preventing its expansion and preventing what angles of light and perspective and vision or angle or angular resolution are available for the bottom half of your vision. The top half of your vision from your eye level up doesn't suffer from that restriction. It expands ever outward and can get exponential amounts of information compared to the bottom half. So you're going to get a horizon with those sorts of conditions.
So what you're saying is it's directly related to the top half of a camera versus a bottom half of a camera then, correct?
Yeah, the bottom half will set the visual angles because it is extremely limited. You will have symmetrical pairing of the top and bottom half angles of your vision up to about 3 to 6 miles away. Beyond that, the symmetrical pairing will cease. And after a while, you're going to get a blind spot in the middle of uninterpretable, non-symmetric, unresolvable information because the angles are not pairing equally. And stuff that is too tall, that's way above these symmetrical zones, 6 foot above and below the level of the eyes, will just tend to set.
Yeah, we get it. So my question is this then. So when I take my camera out, one of my Sonys, and I take a landscape photo and a portrait, I would expect them to be different if pointed at the same subject, correct?
Yeah.
Do you know that doesn't happen in reality, Lemon?
We zoom past the horizon all the time. You guys just move the goalpost and say the horizon is wherever the lack of resolution of the instrument, ends or whatever. Whenever the instrument can no longer resolve the top and bottom half of vision and the horizon line can't be resolved anymore, that's where you move the horizon.
Yeah, got it. Right, so back to the point, just really quickly, because I'm a stickler for going over the same point and not going off on one.
Stingray, we know you're just going to continue this conversation until you get the final point. So since you're not really listening to me, Stingray, you're going to get Gish Gallop increasingly, just to warn you. I'm not
I'm trying to focus on a single point. That's called Gish Galloping. So when I tilt
it's
that
called
camera...
left brain myopia, where you're not bringing in enough evidence to actually solve the problem while you're hyper-focused on one issue. It's left brain myopia.
Let me know when you're done. Okay, so when I tilt the camera 90 degrees at the same subject and take portrait, and then I turn it back to 0, and I take landscape, I should never be able to overlay the two and say, fuck me, these match, correct?
I don't know if that necessarily follows. You'll be able to peer past the horizon a little bit with enough zoom, but eventually a horizon will still form. That's all I'm saying.
You just said top half lens different to bottom half lens. And I'm just,
because the top half opens up, the bottom half tends to smush and compress because you're 6 feet off of the ground and there's a barrier in the way.
I get the claim, Lemon, I really do. But that would mean that if I took a photo of a fucking grid in a landscape fashion, and then I took a photo of a grid in a portrait fashion, that I would be able to see this magical effect that you're on about. That's a fair experiment, right?
I guess it's fair, but most of the compression will still be toward the surface because you don't have room from the level of the eyes down to the surface compared to left, right, or up outside, where you have infinite room in like 3 directions except one from the level of the eyes or the instrument downward.
So very importantly, the camera doesn't know about the land or anything. All it knows about
obviously it does, Stingray, because stuff that is above the level of the eyes, or even above the camera, will still ramp down toward the level of the eyes of the camera. So what you're saying is a little inaccurate.
So let me finish. So the camera does not know anything about the ground. It doesn't know anything about anything. The only thing it knows
based off of the ramping behavior, Dross, that's not true.
Will you let me fucking finish?
You never finish. You just keep on going until you get the last word. So I have to get in
Lemon. He never gets a fucking chance.
I want to know because Lemon Bear said that the camera knows. I don't know. As far as I know, the camera doesn't know shit. It's in animate object. So I want to hear Stingray point all the way to the end. Lemon, like for real, be fair. I want to hear Stingray's point.
He's just not going to stop though.
No, but he must stop. He must at least try to say his point. He will not stop if you keep interrupting. If you don't interrupt, he will get to the end of this point. Go ahead, Stingray.
Cheers. So lenses are designed, Lemon, so that the last lens element, the thing that you can put smudges on at the end, that takes in the light, and it's the incidence angle on that surface that then starts the directions through the grouping and lens elements to get focused onto the sensor. That is how a lens works. That last lens element is the most important thing. That's what takes in the fucking light and it's an incidence angle on the lens. It has a discrete field of view that is not aware of anything. It just gets light bounced into it in straight lines, straight into, well, the incidence angle of it into it perpendicular onto the lens element that then it focuses through. That's it. It doesn't know about the ground. It doesn't know about flat Earth.
Stingray, that's deceptive because the light still has to cram in through the opening of the instrument. It would have to cram in through an angle, and therefore the position of the lens relative to the limiting surface, be it the floor wall, the ceiling, becomes apparent, number one. And number two, Stingray, just like according to your eye, something above the level of the eye going away in series, like a bunch of lamp posts that are the same height going away from you in series, or a plane that is above the level of the eyes, tends to ramp downward in your eye or the camera. So similar behavior is being represented either way, as if the camera still kind of knows what the level of the eye is above the limiting surface. So that's why what you're saying is slightly inaccurate.
Then I would need a citation on that, because everything I said, I used to work next door.
Citation for common sense and thought. This is why I can't with you left-brain people. You don't need a citation for all levels of thought. Just reason properly and consistently. Break the limited myopic left-brain paradigm, as Stingray Dress.
So, right. So I would need a citation for you telling me something different than Leica Geosystems, the master company, parent company of Leica, who make fucking lenses who I used to work next to, because they say something completely different to your bullshit.
All they do is make equipment that focuses light to a point, Dress. They're not asking why the horizon forms over a flat plane or trying to look at this from a different perspective, Dress. Break the limited left brain paradigm. There doesn't need to be a citation for every element of your logical, rational thought process. You're trying to get a citation that the camera does or doesn't know where eye level is based off of objects going away in series, like looking down a hallway. I mean, get real. Just use your reasoning process.
Yeah, okay,
Hey, Lemon.
I will do.
Hey, Stingray, in your ship example, could you do something for me? Could you have one ship in each example be 19 kilometers away and have an observer height of 0?
You're going to need to represent the ramping of the surface up to the level of the eyes by being above the surface, at least like by a foot or something. By the ramping of the surface, by the surface going away in series, like the street lamp, how we establish a level. That goes away from you in sequence, like the ground level or a street lamps or whatever. If it's below the level of the eyes, it will ramp upward. We need that indicator at the very least.
Lemon, wait till you chuck out bullshit excuses till I've done it. Probably look better.
What good does all this expertise and all of this theory give you if it makes you myopic and closed-minded? You need a freaking experiment to start thinking along certain terms and rationally? No. Break out of that paradigm. Use your freaking common sense and use your rational reasoning. Just like in your eye, things that go away in series appear to ramp downward if they're above the level of the eyes. The same thing is represented in the camera if it's going away in series from the camera. So the same principles appear to apply.
Common sense would say that the objects in the distance are dropping, not that there's some fictitious form of light that happens magically according to your rules. That's not common sense.
Look, all I am is a conspiratard, religitard wooster. But at the very least, I'm humble enough to look at other alternative interpretations and test them for consistency. I don't need to be an expert to test a narrative for consistency. And if you're telling me that there's a hump of Earth curve, but there's no curvature that's related to some sort of straight standard, that's a huge red flag. If you haven't even established the curvature of the Earth relative to a straight standard like a laser, I can't even trust your conclusion at that point. I'm going to go with something else. I'm sorry.
Let me ask a question to all the panel. Raise your hand if any of us have tell Lemon that there's a hump of Earth curve on the way. Have anybody tell Lemon that there's a hump of Earth curve on the way? My hand is down. If anybody got their hands up, speak now.
No, I haven't said hump.
There you go, Lemon. I never heard anybody saying there's a hump of Earth on the curve on the way.
That's implicit, Jose. That's what's demanded by their model, if their model is meaningful at all. You don't have to say it. It's implicit in your claim. It's implicit in that you don't have to say it. It's still there.
That's just a flat lie, Lemon. It's not implicit. He says that. That's just bullshit made up by you.
Then what are you saying? I'm right here. Cut through the layers of bullshit and tell me what your claim is then. Because I'm rationally reasoning what the nature of your claim is explicitly based off of what you say in a concrete way by word and implicitly based off of what you're not willing to say, but what naturally follows from your position. So tell me what the hell you mean by what the hell your claim is or whatever. Tell me right now.
Well, the claim is the Earth is a sphere, Lemon, and it is curving away from you in every direction. There is no hump in front of you, behind you, left of you, or right of you. You're standing on top of it. That's the claim.
There would be a hump relative to the chord, the line going through the circle, like the diameter, or a line going between your feet and the foot of the observation. So there would be a hump relative to that specifically. Would there not be?
Blue,
obviously, there would be. I will answer that question rhetorically because when I try to ask logical questions to people that want to avoid the implications, they avoid answering if the logic leads to an answer that they don't want to accept. So obviously, yes, there will be a hump relative to the chord going between your feet and the foot of the observation.
Blue, I don't know about you.
Let's talk about the real world and what we can actually see. We cannot see a chord through the Earth, can we, Lemon?
Then how the hell do you establish a line of sight? A line of sight would be at least tangent to the ball, would it not? If you have a line of sight that's straight enough to hit the hump of Earth curve, why can't you have a line parallel to that that is a chord going between your foot and the foot of what you're observing?
Filibuster all you want to. I can do it too.
I'm not going to filibuster if you're honest with your answers. If you're going to give me BS, you're going to get gish gallop. I'm sorry.
You're being dishonest about it, Lemon. You're the one.
You won't even follow a conclusion to a logical conclusion or a logical endpoint. You just bomb the logic and bring in a bunch of ad hom and nonsense to cloud the issue. Why should I respect that? Anyway, if you have a line of sight, Blue, you can have a line parallel to that line of sight, by logical extension, a chord going through the Earth.
No, there is no chord going through the Earth that is a line of sight, Lemon. How could that be?
It can be over a flat surface. You have converging visual angles that merge into a horizon line that you quote unquote call tangent to a ball, but it's just converging angles over a flat surface.
Oh, if it were flat, yeah, you'd be right. It's not flat.
How many humps?
That's what the laser test and infrared are showing. When you take away NASA's barrel distorted images in CGI, all you're left with is a flat plane and bad globe reasoning.
GPS testing, like at Lake Pontchartrain, for instance, says something totally different.
Oh my God, that bridge is totally flat from the side, and there's obvious evidence of refraction. If you look at the pylons, the electrical pylons, you can see it curving back into itself, and you accept that without actually testing it for evidence of refraction. Good luck with that.
3,959 miles. That's the radius of it. It's been mapped. It's been measured.
It's been concluded to with flawed reasoning. And you can see obvious evidence of refraction in the electrical pylons that is obvious, yet you reject the black swan, which has similar warping and distortion, saying it's too refracted to tell. But the Lake Pontchartrain fakery is good enough for you.
We're looking at GPS elevation data. Actually,
I mean, that's not going to work. Data. And you can see curving within the image and warping and distorting within the image.
That you can actually count on it, Lemon.
Lemon,
it doesn't
really
have any bias built into it.
Blue or anybody, you guys see my camera? I got. I don't know if you guys see this the correct way or flipped, like the letters are backwards. I don't know.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, right. Look at that, Lemon. Don't be a Mabbett. Science matters. How about that?
Lemon, how many humps does
science is what's observable, testable, and repeatable? I'm getting propaganda rhetoric from people that don't even reason properly. That's not science. That's just peddling the narrative and ignoring the inconsistency. That's not science. Science would be testing the curvature of the Earth relative to a straight standard like a laser. You didn't even do that. So why are you parroting science like it's some sort of mind-emptying mantra?
Why would you say a laser straight, Lemon, going through the atmosphere? Why would you say that? You know, light bends.
Philosophically, we're prepared. It doesn't bend at 8 inches per mile squared, Blue. It doesn't.
It bends, does it not?
When you shoot it through a prism, sure.
When you shoot it through the atmosphere, it does. It's light. It has to bend.
Fallacy of composition. The atmosphere is not a prism. We reason that it has to act similarly, but that reasoning may be fallacious. That may be a bad inference
Not
and
at
bad
all,
logic.
We reason from everything we know about light that light will bend when it passes through different medium, different densities.
But it's
That's
all
what it's
the
doing.
air. You say it's a different medium as if it's going from air to the prism crystal. That's a bit of a
No, I did not say that, and that's
a fixed laser, a fixed laser on the far shore, beaming to you over a period of hours, will move up and down. Obviously, the laser is not moving, therefore it's bending through air. No prisms. That is all.
But it's still straight enough to determine the curvature of the Earth against.
Oh, it did.
And we
Not
can factor
necessarily.
how much of the laser would deviate. It's still not enough for Earth curvature. I'm sorry.
We need to do that. We've got XYZ coordinates from the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. We've got the elevation data from LIGO, which shows the same thing.
Let's reason together, gentlemen. You're using the GPS data, which assumes a ball. That's a fallacy in that you're using something that assumes what must first be proven. So that's a huge red flag.
Where do you see this? The laser's not good. Good, Blue.
You asked Blue, what was that?
Go ahead, Blue.
I didn't hear what Moriak said.
Oh no, I was just saying go ahead. But no, I was going to say that the if you're going to cite lasers and they go straight enough, I think you'd be citing like the Lake Peloton and whatever the FE core stuff was. But I think that Sly Sparkane pretty handily displayed that they lied through every damn claim that they made. So I mean, we don't have any evidence that lasers go straight through the atmosphere over great distances.
Well, as I said, I'm just a humble booster. I'm not an expert, but I am able to test the narrative for consistency. Unless Sly Sparkane, yet again, is talking about the curvature or the lack thereof, I don't care if they lied on their taxes. I don't care if they lied about their weight. I don't care if they lied about something that was irrelated, something that was irrelevant to the topic. I need to see how their lies are relative to the topic. We talked about this yesterday, Moya. But Sly Sparkane, as far as I can tell, is not showing a pertinent lie that really matters. I don't care. I don't even know if they lied. Maybe Sly Sparkane is just misinterpreting what was being said. So I need to
location and distance is not germane, Lemon.
I need to see it for myself. I still got to watch this video. I tend not to trust Sly Sparkane as a Globe zealot, but I'm going to need to see.
You haven't watched it?
I have a bunch of red pill on the back burner. I'm sorry. I got to process through all of these red pill videos, gentlemen. It takes time.
Actually, you don't. They're useless.
Anyway, the red pill is useful. What's that? What'd you say, sir?
Why would you comment on something that you haven't seen?
The subject matter is still, pretty commonly bandied about in flat earth circles, the FE core laser test. They were talking about the FE core laser test. So what I'm saying is tangential to that.
Which is useless.
Oh, Lord. So anyway, the Globers are missing a straight standard to measure the curvature of the Earth against. It appears that they're using questionable philosophy, questionable interpretation, NASA's curve photos, CGI, and stuff like that to back up this Earth curve. That's just a little suspicious.
It's been a little bit. It's been a while. 3 hours since the show. I have to get out of here a little late, so I gotta take care of my dogs and eat myself and all the stuff. Now I will hit recording on the after show. If you guys want to stay and talk among yourself, it's good. I really want to appreciate Stingray, Arma is here, Big Blue, Brufus, C4, Shaik, Komar, Fred, Gary, Grubus, Laurie, Lucky Fish, Mars Mushrooms, Mojok Man, Peter G, 56, and the Kitsune, and everybody in YouTube land. If you guys over here in the call haven't head over to the YouTube live stream and hit the like, I will appreciate that. We are getting very, very close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm sitting down in like 930. That is fantastic. I think we can probably accomplish the 1,000 by Sunday or Monday, maybe. So we'll celebrate. We'll do a little special, a little bit of a shit show as a special. Thank you very much. Hit the like or dislike. You guys watching in the comment section, in the chat box. Come down to the comment section and let us know your thoughts. The first comment in when the video is uploaded on YouTube will be pinned in the top. But please leave your comments. Share the show and all that good stuff. Please support. I'm planning on doing a Friday shit show tomorrow. Yes, I am in a really tough spot. I'll explain to you guys later. If anybody can support with anything, I'll appreciate it. PayPal link in the description box. Support each other. Support content creators. Thank you again, guys. Jose JG out. Boom.
Boom.